Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome back to Thursday evenings here at Evolution Sim Racing tonight ahead of the 5th round of our GT3 Season 7 Championships, where our drivers meet around the streets of Long Beach, California. Just about 50 years on, actually, since the inaugural race event here, ESR GT3 arrives for its very first time. So as always, you join myself, Joseph Glass, alongside Mr. Dara Thacker in the booth tonight. And Dara, I bet these drivers are just about as glad as you and I will be to have traded the rain and also the pain of Virginia for the sunshine and palm trees around the streets of sunny California.
Yeah, quite a change, isn't it? From the East Coast to the West Coast of the USA, and also a very different circuit in terms of the characteristics. Lots of open grass for drivers to go wide off the track into last week. Quite the same this week. Fountains, walls, tyre barriers as well. It's all here at Long Beach.
It is. We saw an eventful session not last week, a couple of days ago on Monday evening here in the GT4 TCR series. And we've had a few little tweaks to proceedings, which we'll cover before the start of the opening round. Remember, it's that 2 30-minute sprint race format tonight, meaning that the man that finishes on the top step of the podium after the first race will go all the way down to P18 for the second. And, you know, we saw a good effort by the leaders in the GT4s to claw the way back from P10, but P18 will be something different entirely. So, as always, we'll have a quick run through the formalities before we join the drivers trackside for qualifying in just about 5 or so minutes time. So as always, we give thanks to the 3 sponsors that make this series possible. That is the Cameo team, the GP2 group, and Keenan Eco Energy. And we cross over into the halfway point of the season. After tonight, 5 will be done and 5 will be left, with Sebring next week in mixed conditions. So back to potentially some tricky conditions, not full wets, but it will definitely rain toward the end of that one. And then ahead of that is Kota, Imola, Mugello, and then the season finale at Bathurst. So we're really starting to see who is in with the chance at the championships, and who needs to improve just a little bit more if they fancy some opportunities in the second half of the season. And we can do that first by taking a look at the Premier standings in our GT3 class here tonight. So, leading the way, as he did this time last week, is Mr. Robin Noel Brown. The lead, however, has come down by a handful of points, maybe 10 or 15 points. Mr. Eddie Adcock there got a nice podium for himself last week. Did, as we said, brought that margin down ever so slightly over the Porsche driver. Now it's only 8 points, so these two really looking neck and neck as we head into that second half of the season. What a week it was for Mr. Jan Osberg that we highlighted so heavily this time last week. An absolute dominant performance out in those wet conditions, and that sees him rise all the way from P7 in the standings up into the top 3. So one of the biggest jumps that we've seen, and especially as we reach, more and more points, the gaps start to open up. We're not really in the early stages of the season anymore, and for that kind of jump to happen, it really is a great effort by the Porsche driver. And behind him, though, it's James Robinson, who he has displaced out of the top 3. Still a hefty P4 on the cards at the moment for Mr. Robinson, so nothing to be ashamed of there. And Robin Aston will round out the top 5 Not a bad week for him last week either. He moved up from P11 up into the top 5. Scott Kostrick is going to round out the top 6. He had that win to his name right at the start of the season when we thought things were going to look positive for him, but since then, he's only been inside the top 10 on 2 occasions. That sees him drop out of the top 4 into P6 in the standings. Liam Fraser is next, and he's moved up a couple of places from P9, having missed the round a fortnight ago. Still hasn't managed to get himself back on the podium since he had that great start to the championship for the Moonshiners. Ryan Blackie gets himself on this sheet for the first time all season. He wasn't even inside the top 12 last time, but he's moved himself up all but 5 places at least for Quartermass Motorsport into the top 8, and the same can be said for Maxim Dimitrov. He's a new name on this sheet, of course, having missed a handful of rounds. He is now back and performing quite well to get himself in the picture. Sad news though for Mr. Bostock. He drops down from the top 5 all the way down to 10th after a DNF last time out, and also a DNF in the opening round. He needs to find the form that he had in the opening few races if he wants to get back in with a chance to get inside that top 5. James Howarth, the only Mustang on this graphic as well, doing pretty well at the moment, but still pretty close to dropping outside of the top 12, with Mr. Ludbrook only 1 point behind him. 2 DNFs for him in the last 2 races, and not able to score points in round 4 either. It started very well for John. Some top 10s and that win right at the start around Donington, but since then, it hasn't really looked the same.
No, we'll have to see if he can try and recover some of that form tonight, but he's going to have to be finding in and around some of the Evo drivers, led by Andy Schell after the opening few rounds of the season. 260 points to Shell's name, and he's going along pretty nicely at the top of the standings. He's had a couple of headline results, notably the win last time out at Virginia, but he is being held to not the biggest of margins. Ryan Abbott's is relatively close behind, a second and a third early on in the season, keeping him very much competitive in the championship. Bertrand Kart, of course, getting his P2 in round 3, getting him into the top 3 in the championship, but he's being chased down by Sander Tabas, who missed round 3 and has a win to his name so far this season as well. And the sim racing team Lowlands driver will be looking to get himself back inside the top 3 and to displace his teammate. Robert Savage, consistent results for him, sees him into the top 5, but he's tied on points with Danny Weir, who with 2 non-finishes you would suggest is looking to try and get into the top 5 this evening. A little bit of a gap back to Gareth Newton, who wasn't here last week after his 2 third places to open up the season. Dominique Backhouse is in P8. Andre Muntian, after his 2 DNFs, slips to 9th. Then James Pallow, after his win at Road America, finds himself still just about inside the top 10. Wesley Van Rens, only a few races that he's completed, is 11th, and with Owen Seward, with the win that he had in round 4, has found himself with more than enough points to get him into P12.
Yeah, looking pretty good in both of the classes at the moment, but it's great to see, particularly in that Premier class, that we really do have that title fight on our hands. And looking at the practice times at the moment, there is quite a margin between our championship leader and the man in P2, but we'll come to that very shortly, because first we need to run through the team's championship as things stand. So Quartermass still lead the way. That's Mr. Bobby Trundley, Andy Chell, Robert Savage and Ryan Blackie. They're on nearly 600 points, which is a great margin to find themselves on before the halfway point in the season. They're being chased down by those 2 NSXs and the Porsche of RDSA Esports. Yannis Aubert, Tristan Drobriga and Luke Casey just ahead of the Suma GP2 team. Again, we've said this, the points that Robin's bringing in, I mean, Scott's doing well as well, but the points that Robin's bringing in with his championship is really helping those guys, given that they are only a 2-man team. It's RLH next to Fretwell, Palo, Van Ren and Reiser, who are not so far behind either, just 2 points outside of the top 3. We'll still score some nice, we'll still get some awards come the end of the season at this point. Then it's the Axis Sim Sports team rounding out the top 5. Thomas Pugh, Chris Jennings, Austin Grave and Andrea Muntian, who are, again, not that far behind either. Pretty tight all the way from the top 3, and we continue to look down, really, until the top 8, you would say, are all within a chance. These swings in the team's championships can be quite drastic if one team score very little, while another score quite a lot. It's STL inside the top 6 with the DXT team inside the top 7. And in P8, it's the LS Racing team with Veraco Esports and the other DXT Luna team that will be rounding out the top 10. Close behind in P11 is the Alpha 1 Esports team, and then we reach Conehead Racing inside the top 12. So then, we can head over to trackside now and join the drivers right in time for the first qualifying session. And a few of the cars, Dara, making their way out onto the circuit now. We can ride on with the Ford of Mr. Yama Valdemir as he takes us round the first outlap of the session tonight.
Yeah, we timed that almost perfectly. I don't think we could have done that much better if we tried, but Van der Meer, I'm sure, wouldn't mind getting a good lap time in early. Of course, somewhat difficult pit exit here compared to other tracks that we do attend. You can see how tricky it is with the yellow line ending pretty much in the turning point for turn 1. Can't shorten it, of course, but I think a few drivers are going to be looking to get as little of an advantage as they can in parts of the circuit like that when we get in towards the race and such.
Yeah, you're totally right. Let's see how this kind of machine gets on around this circuit. Pretty wide. I mean, same can be said about the Mercedes as well. Different dynamic to what we saw on Monday evening. These cars have a lot more downforce, but are also a little bit bulkier, a little bit harder to get around the circuit. So far, so good, and we have pretty much all of the grid out on track at the moment, give or take a handful of names. 45 with us tonight, so 3/4 of the championship have arrived, which is always great to see. Makes for a very entertaining race, I'm sure. Eddie Adcock will soon be crossing the line as well, so let's see how those two leaders at the front of the Premier Championship get on. But for the time being, Jara, if you would like, we can ride on board with the Mustang as he takes us around the lap of Long Beach.
Yeah, let's see what Yelmer can do as he runs his way under the bridge and ready to start a flying lap here past the flag position, and he will go through the opening corner at turn number 1, thinking about where he's going to make his braking point in towards the opening braking zone of the lap. Difficult to really pick out where the corner turns, but it appears pretty quickly. Can't go too far wide either. The wall is pretty sharp on the outside line. Get yourself around the fountain without mounting yourself into the garden, and Yelmer's done that absolutely beautifully. Through past the curb at 5 and in towards 6 again. Difficult to really keep it on the track. A little bit off camber through the corner. Can be easy to run it out a little bit wide. Yelmer clearly not using as much of the circuit as he could be doing, likely just to make sure that he can get a lap time in. Keeping it nicely through the left-hander, thinking about how wide this part of the circuit is. Good place to make a send if you can, as there's so much room towards the inside line. Be careful on the exit though, as you make your way back towards the second longest straight on this lap. Easy to hit the wall on the outside, easy to hit the wall on the outside into turn number 9. It's a bit of a send spot here, but you can get it oh so wrong. Wall really does pinch up on you on the exit through the left-hander as you run your way through towards the final corner. Keep it as tight as you can, because you need to get to the left-hand side of the circuit to open up this long hairpin. It's so slow through there. Got to be careful not to hit the wall on the exit, but then you power out of the corner, get towards the start-finish line. And Jeroen van der Melde, where did he go in terms of the order? The 153 of Cox gone into P1, but that'll be immediately replaced by the likes of Eggert going through.
Yeah, well, so Eggert takes the provisional pole time ahead of our championship lead. As you can see there, P4 and P5, Eddie Adcock and Robin Noel Brown a little way off the pace at the moment. We can see that time of a 19.404 is good enough by over a tenth of a second, but those three drivers in behind him are pretty close at the moment. Burton Cat takes provisional pole, of the grid, but in the Evo class. So currently, the Evo drivers have outpaced those Premier drivers in the opening lap, and we can see the Audi is already heading through the roundabout once again on his second lap. Let's see if he can improve, and let's wait to see if a Premier driver can reshuffle that order, bring the Premiers back to the top of those standings. James Pallow sets a time good enough for P7. There's Clyde Veyer and Rob Mackay inside the top 5. Great lap by Rob in his McLaren. He will be setting off away again. At the moment, it's just Austin Grave, Daniel Poole, and our new debutant in this split, Simon Wareham, who's dropped down out of the A split, yet to join us on track. Let's see, we'll soon see Burton Cad up on the timing sheets. He set the fastest time in the 4th sector. That's now been beaten by Mr. James Bostock as he takes the time at the front of the field. The first driver into the 18s at the moment, closely followed by his sister team of Scott Kostrick, just under 3/10 away.
Yeah, let's see if there's too many big improvements here, because I think it's going to be interesting to really see how this qualifying session pans out. It's really important to get the good starting position for this race, but as we've mentioned, the reverse grid definitely going to be coming into effect in terms of any kind of championship battles. Who's going to be able to win race 2? It's going to be really quite significant, you'd have to say. Bostock still leading the way, though, with times have been flying in. 25 times they've come in, and still James Bostock is top of the tree, and by quite a distance at that as well, 0.3 of a second or so, so really interesting to see him still there. Andy Shell, not going to be able to improve to the fastest time, should improve his position. Maybe not, maybe he ran a little bit wide there, wasn't able to improve as Palo goes up into the top 5. But 10 Cat has a huge lead at the moment, still in Evo.
Yeah, he does. That's a shame for the championship leader there. The number 5 machine of Andy Chell in the Porsche. Thought he would have done a little bit more there. It seems as though he's prematurely come back into the pit lane. I'm not sure what that's about, but at the moment, 1.3 seconds off the pace of the man at the front of his class is not exactly what you would expect to see from a man who's had such great form, as Alex Comrat gets himself onto the second row of the grid, the fastest Ford driver as things stand. Here's Jan Osberg in that Porsche, as we already said. Oh, Robin Noel Brown pipping his sister team there of James Bostock by 6/1000ths of a second. That's an 18.849, and Jan Asperg comes close, 2.5 away. He will take Alex Conrad's spot on the second row of the grid. It's 4 Porsches taking the first 4 spots on the grid. Then a Ford, an Acura, and a McLaren inside the top 7. Not bad for that BMW of Klaas Janssen at the moment either. Time still pouring in. Wesley Van Ren on the track for the first time. Still no Simon Wareham though.
Yeah, waiting for a time from a couple of drivers. I'm sure they'll be able to pop it up in the next couple of minutes. Still got some time, still over half the session to go for them to see if they can get themselves up towards the front of the order, even just onto the order, not falling behind some more of the Evo drivers. Robin Aston goes up into the top 6, just inside half a second of Robin Earl Brown's time, which is always good to see. Porsches look like a decent car in the Premier Class, top 4 being Porsches. Then again, though, three of the bottom 4 are also Porsches, so a bit of an up and down split for that machine. What about Robinson coming towards the line? James in the BMW, one of only 2 BMWs in the field that have set times so far. He goes up into the top 13, and just behind Klaas Janssen.
Times still flying in. Eddie Adcock did his full qualifying run. The 2 drivers in front of him have not, but it's a very impressive time at the moment for the guys who are leading the field. Their session is over. Jan Osberg and Bertin Kat, out of class. Bertin Kat currently P4 overall. Jan Osberg is still on the track. Let's ride on board with him actually. And so they're almost in the exact same spot there. Let's see how this Porsche driver gets on at the moment. Is he going to improve? Takes that curb nicely over on the right hand side at turn 5. He's got the short run before turn 6, and then, as you said, Dara, a pretty wide open area for cars to go 3, maybe 4 wide. I would be surprised if we saw that at any time tonight. A little bit of a shake on the steering wheel, trying to keep it under control. Now it's important to get your foot down as early as you can, but avoid that outside wall to get a great run in what is really the longest straight outside of the pit straight. The best opportunity to try and make up some positions when we come to racing down through the gears into second. Take as much of that apex curb as you can. We'll see Jan Osberg coming up on the qualifying times at the bottom of the screen. There he is. He hasn't improved. He's set 3 sectors so far, which was slower than his last. Not the worst exit I've ever seen. A little bit of a scramble on the traction control coming out of the final corner. Is it going to be enough though? He doesn't need an awful lot to gain a position. Best part of 1/10 of a second, but it doesn't look like he's going to do it. He has not, and he backs out of that lap time. Not too many drivers left on the circuit. Here's one. Clyde Veyer is coming through turn 9 now.
Yeah, let's see what Clyde Veyer can be doing there, and as we see him run up towards... Oh, he can find the barriers is what he can do, Joe. That's not the right line to take. I think more than a few drivers are going to end up taking that line tonight, whether by mistake or in a battle, so definitely someone to watch out for throughout the 2 30-minute races that face us this evening. Still some time yet to come in, the likes of Austin Graf that we're looking at now in his Ferrari. Ferrari, not a well-chosen car, only 3 in the field at the moment to go with the 2 BMWs. Fair to say that I think we've got a majority Porsche McLaren mix, haven't we, between those two. But it's always nice to see a couple of the other cars getting a look in, the likes of the Acuras, the likes of the Ferraris and the Fords, and of course the BMWs.
Yeah, worth a note, there are 2 additional Ferraris which haven't set a lap time yet. Thiago Reisa is making his way around the circuit. Simon Wareham did have a little venture out onto the circuit, set a couple of decent sector times, but then didn't complete any valid lap times and came straight back into the pit lane. But you're right, Dara, I think we expected it to be a majority Porsche Championship. Thankfully, not as much as what it used to be in the earlier seasons back in the fixed setups. A few McLarens in there, and it's great to see the NSX with some representation as well. But I'm a fan of this Ferrari car, you know. It's a shame that we don't see more than 5 drivers bringing this one into the championship. It would be a little bit late now, I think, to start changing machinery. Of course, you can make a change if you wish to lose 50 championship points. But Liam Fraser getting himself inside the top 10. I don't think Austin improved his lap time there. Thiago Reisa is going to be the only man left to set any additional times. He's got 1 more lap to go. But yeah, it's a shame that we don't see a few more of these other cars, the Fords, the Audis, for example. But I think all in all, it's great to see more of a spread of machinery than we have done in previous seasons at ESR.
Yeah, always good to see that they're all relatively competitive as well. Of course, the Audi leading the way in the Evo class at the moment, being the only Audi to set a lap, mind you, in the form of third 10 kart. You've got the Audi, you've got the Porsche, you've got the Acura, the Fords as well. It's good to see that there are so many cars that look pretty decent on the circuit at the moment, and the times are close. We've got the likes of Dean Sheesby and Wesley Van Rens, who have got nothing to split them. Both of them 859 thousandths off of the pole time. 6 thousandths, of course, between the top 2 into the final stages. It is great to see how close it is, and it leads us into a situation where we're going to have a really close race, particularly for that top 18. The likes of Danny Weir, Austin Graf, Lars Janssen fighting to keep themselves inside, or getting themselves inside that top 18 for the reverse grid. Going to be critical in the early stages, I think, to get some moves done.
Yeah, and it's worth noting as well, it's very, very interesting to see P7, 8 and 9 in the order. All 3 Fords, aside from Jarmo van der Meer, all within half a tenth of one another. Now, half a tenth, it's like, is that even a blink of an eye? I don't know what the duration of a blink of an eye is, but for 3...
I think it's...
Go on.
I think a blink of an eye is 700ths of a second.
Okay, so it's about a blink of an eye, right? About a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, but crazy that 3 different drivers of 3 varying skills can drive the same car to a blink of an eye. I mean, and sit right next to each other at the start of the race, which is great to see. And as you pointed out, those 2 drivers there, Sheesby and Van Ren there, setting identical lap times as well, which is, again, I just find it crazy. I mean, we see it now and again in these sort of situations, but all the differences in inputs and turn-ins and decisions that the guys make across these 11 corners to reach the line at the same time blows my mind sometimes, you know.
Yeah, it's crazy. When you consider, particularly a circuit like this, with so many little variables, to get the same lap time is absolutely crazy. Even to dismiss it by 1,000th or 2, we're talking centimetres on the circuit when they cross the line rather than meters. It really, really is impressive. And it goes to show how fine the margins are. I mean, just straightening out the line to the checkered flag or to the end of your lap could be the difference between gaining 6 or 7 thousandths and not. So incredibly tight. And you can see there, none of the gaps, as you'd expect, to any of the drivers are very big at all. Lots of them well under a tenth.
Yeah, that is. I don't think I've seen a qualifying session as tight as that between one position and the next, quite frankly. 90% of those lap times are within a tenth, as you say, and you know, you'll be kicking yourself as a driver when you look at that. And well, they all will be, right? They'll all be thinking, damn, just one slight improvement could have got me at least a handful of positions. But not to be, sadly. And that's going to be the end of qualifying. Sadly, nobody else out on the circuit. So we have a minute or 2 to kill before we can bring you the grid. But that's okay. We can see how it is there, but we'll run through it formally in just a moment. Let's take a look at how things are shaping up inside the classes. So the championship leader, as we might have expected, continues that fine form at the front. He'll start on the front row of the grid ahead of Mr. Bostock, who, again, hasn't had a bad season of anything, but I'm not sure if he's had a successful qualifying like that, especially, Dara, not within 1/100th of a second away from pole.
Yeah, I mean, gutting really for Bostock to miss out, really being so close and yet probably feeling so far away. But he will start in second place. Single file, of course, will be what they have to face. But definitely going to be an interesting one, I think, for the drivers to be able to manage down towards turn one. But you'd expect that Noel Brown should be able to get away just fine.
Yeah, and the same can be said about Bertin Cat. He's best part of 2 tenths clear of any of his competition. Then it's half a second down to Andre Muntin. So he finds himself so far up the order inside the top 4 on the track. He'll have a bit of management to do in terms of avoiding these pro drivers who may over race distance. You never know, may have a little bit more pace, but he's got a nice margin of 3 cars in between him and Mr. Ryan Abbott. And then Andre Muntin is in P15 on the track. So a nice, easy start by Bertin Cat. Could see him get ahead at the start, but we'll have to see how things go. We saw things not go the best on Monday night, I think it's safe to say, but as we make our way around the formation lap, we should see something a little bit different than what we're used to seeing at ESR, which we'll explain very shortly. And these guys are going to actually have just a short run to the line. I think this is the entry to turn 6, if I'm not mistaken, which means these guys are really going to have no time at all to get themselves in single file formation, which was the decision taken a few hours before the session started to try to get these guys to go through turn 9, 10 and 11 in single file. We have nominated a few drivers to try and make that clear over the radio, and it was made clear in the driver briefing before the session. But fingers crossed, this is such a big grid, fingers crossed the message has got through to everybody and everybody finds their correct slot in behind the driver ahead of them.
Yeah, it's always trying to get around this circuit, particularly when it is as tight and as twisty as this. I am really interested, though, just to see how this one's going to pan out, particularly off the opening couple of laps. The likes of Noel Brown, Bostock, Adcock at the start. But the likes of Bertin Cat as well, going to be right near the front of the order overall. Going to be interesting to see how he plays this, because, of course, he won't gain any points for winning the race. But it could be we could be into a situation like we found at Road America, where it's a case of, do you fall a little bit further back to try and keep yourself closer to fellow AM drivers? I'm on a Monday night show. Fellow Evo drivers going into race number 2.
Yeah, and of course you don't want to overstep the mark. Let's say hypothetically that Ryan Abbott and Andrea Muntin have an issue at the start. It would serve Bertin Cat well to still win his race in class, but drop a little bit further towards that P18 spot, so then he can try and do the same thing again in that feature race. Although it's easy to say that, you never know how things might unfold, but it's definitely a little bit of strategy that he needs to consider if he wants to maximise the points on offer tonight. He's done what he has to do in qualifying. He's put himself in a fabulous position going into the start of this race. Just has to manage the traffic, and fingers crossed he can convert what has been a very successful qualifying. So single file has begun at the front. The Suma should do the same thing toward the rear, and let's see, it looks as though people are more or less getting the message. A few of them at the back not quite there yet. We'll hopefully see them as they all trickle through turn 9, slotting into single file. It's looking good at the front. So far, so good. Obviously, single file will, to an extent, double the length of the field at the moment. So it's bad enough starting toward the back, but it's going to feel extra painful as Robin Noel Brown drops the hammer very shortly, whereas Daniel Poole, he hasn't even reached turn 9 yet. But it looks as though most of these guys have followed the order, which is brilliant. And Robin Noel Brown will be close to dropping the hammer. We're underway for the opening round of Long Beach. It's halfway through the season. Commences tonight, and he gets a good start ahead of James Bostock inside the top 2. And all the drivers looks like they've made it through the final corner, which is great to see at the start of this race. Alex Conrad's thinking about a move up the inside of Scott Kostrick, and there's contact immediately, and that's going to cause a little bit of a check-up at the entrance into turn 2. It looks as though everyone is getting away okay. That's a very slow Kame car of Robin Aston. 3 wide through the roundabout's not going to work, lads. We need to split it up a little bit.
Yeah, and it looks like they just about will a little bit further back, but they're still too wide as they work their way out of turn 3, which is the little left-hander as you get out of that fountain section. Looks pretty nice and calm towards the back of the field, though, which is like what we like to see. James Robinson finding it out, though, with Dean Sheesby, as Sheesby tries to go around to the outside at turn number 5. At turn 6, he'll have the inside line, but not really enough overlap to make this one work. Or does he? He'll have a good run, but the freedom of the outside of the circuit goes to James Robinson, and the BMW will stay in the lead of the race. Bostock under pressure from Adcock, but Adcock not necessarily with the commitment needed to make a move there.
Yeah, a little bit of an opportunity for Robin Noel Brown to get ahead. James, of course, in that sister GP2 machine, could make it a little bit of a nightmare for Adcock to get by. Looks like he's doing exactly that at the moment. 2 seconds it'll be when Noel Brown crosses the line ahead of Bostock, who's half a second clear of Adcock. So this is exactly what Noel Brown will hope to see in the opening phase of the race, watching his teammate defend against his championship rival. Things looking okay down the order. Dean Sheesby still in that battle with James Robinson. As for Burton Cat, he's got away off the line well. The top 5 stay where they were at the start of the session. Liam Fraser has put Scott Kostrick around. And that's not the best rejoin we've ever seen. 2 contacts made with other cars there by the 101. He's had a bit of a nightmare start, it's safe to say. We've got Rob Gregg under pressure going into the roundabout as well by the McLaren in behind.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a tentative opening start, particularly back here. I mean, you can see in the Premier class some of the gaps that were forming already over a second between a lot of the guys. Alex Conrads was under pressure from Liam Fraser, but that pressure is abated. I mean, Liam Fraser lost 3 seconds to the back of Fraser, so not ideal for him. Scott Kostrick is having to battle his way through with the likes of Brandon Smith and Justin Habermack, and nearly 3 wide actually down towards this really tricky braking zone. Kostrick on the outside line, it'll be Rob Mackay on the inside line, but Mackay again not with it's Rob McKee, isn't it?
No, Rob Mackay. Rob Mackay.
Oh, it is Rob Mackay. I double guess myself every single time. But it's Rob Mackay. He's fighting himself through, and yeah, he'll get a position thanks to that.
And yeah, it's the worst place to be. We saw it the other night. Oh, there's been a big crash somewhere. Not sure where. Lots of drivers involved. But yeah, not the best place for Mr. Kostrick to find himself. And look at that, he's still stuck, dropping down the order. He's just going to have to wait there, really, until the whole field come through. Poor guy, I don't think I've seen a worse start in a long time. Just about avoiding the pit entry. Targo Isa having to defend in behind from Hussein Sarakadezla. This is a battle out of class. Toward the front though, James Bostock still doing a brilliant job to help his teammate ahead. And there's been another big crash. Oh, here it is. I was just about to try and find it, but it's right here in the roundabout. 6 or 7 cars involved there in that roundabout section. Let's try and see what happened as they head into turns 1. Martin is ahead. Is he going to arrive on the scene of an incident, or is he going to be the first one? Yes, it is. Look at that. There's a big checkup ahead. Let's see. Andy Chell is, I think, the first car involved here. 6 or 7 cars, Dara.
Yeah, Andy Chell, of course, leader in the Evo standings. Oh, gets a tap from behind, takes it a little bit slowly through the fountain section, but gets the help from behind, and that just stops everybody up, and it becomes a bit of a car park down there. Rear wings being lost as well. Yeah,
good 10 cars or stuff or something stuck in that section. One going into the rear of the next, and then the next, and then the next. And all in all, quite a bit of damage checking up. To be fair, Andy did nothing wrong there. Got a little bit of contact on the rear, tried to get himself off the racing line as fast as possible to free up that, the increasing car park that we saw down there. And that was close between those 2 teammates as Gareth Newton enters the pit lane. Sarika Desler came awfully close to going into the back of him here. We can see 2 cars separating these drivers at the moment. Huss takes the tighter inside line, then his teammate slams on the brakes and comes into the pit lane. Great reaction time by the 108 machine, I think, there.
Yeah, and the 108 doing a good job, really, given the circumstances. So we'll see what Sarakadesa can do to try and get himself through the field. Meanwhile, Adcock and Bostock, again, Adcock on the inside line, a little bit more committed this time, and it's going to get him that move done. 127 up into P2, and Bostock, after just missing out on pole, is now missing out on a top 2 finish for the time being.
Yeah, I mean, he won't mind that too much. I think he'll be aware of the pace that Adcock will have, but crucially, is it enough of a margin for his teammate Noel Brown? It was 2 seconds a couple of laps ago. It's only 2.5 now, so really Adcock hasn't lost out an awful lot in the first 5 minutes of this race, and he'll definitely fancy his chances at improving. Lap times more or less identical between the 2 championship leaders at the front of the field, less than half a tenth separating them on that particular lap. So let's keep our eyes peeled on those interval times as the race goes on. This looks like it's a pretty enticing battle between James Robinson, Di Chispi and Matthias Eggert. This will get them inside the top 12 in class, and Matthias Eggert's currently in P18, so these three are fighting over what will be reverse pole position as we enter the second race, and none of them really want to get caught up in anything. They'd rather probably give a couple of points up now to get the opportunity at starting toward the front of the field in race 2.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be, I think, an important phase of the race now to really start to think about what you're going to be doing for the start of race 2. Seems a little bit counterintuitive, if really, considering we've got 23 minutes left in the opening race, but it's going to be so crucial. It's such an important part of these two 30-minute races, evenings, I should say, worth of races, to make sure that you can get yourself into that reverse grid. If you're on the outside looking in, you need to really, really apply some pressure. If you're in the top 5, the likes of Alex Konrads, trying to get past Jan Osberg maybe for P4, it's not critical to make that move. You don't have to go for that P4 necessarily if it's not going to be on for you. You can see Henry Kuhler go around in the 171. It is definitely a management phase of the evening. When we get to race 2, that goes out of the window, but in race 1 you've really got to be thinking about more than just this race.
Yeah, and as we say, we're not even 10 minutes into the race already. It's been pretty frantic at the start, but you're right, manage what you can for the time being, see where you end up toward the latter stages of this race, and then we can maybe think about some moves. But again, it comes to the time when, for the guys battling, outside the top 10 in the championship order, is it really worth the extra handful of points that you might get, or is it worth that little bump up the order for the second race, and maybe from there you can start to gain even more than what you would have done in the opening round in that sort of opening couple of laps of the feature when everything is up in the air. At the moment though, it's looking good for Sarika Desler. He's up 11 places at the start, so he has not been cautious at all, but we're used to seeing him a little bit higher than what he is now. He's got a pretty big gap ahead of over 3 seconds to Rob Gregg, and just got himself inside a point scoring position, but he's well away, Dara, best part of 8 positions away from the reverse grid. So a lot more work to do for Sarika Desler this evening, but so far so good as he makes his way through the traffic in the early stage. And would you look at this, the championship leaders are all over each other once again, and that does not bode well for Robin Noel Brown. He had free air for the opening 5 laps, and within 1 his championship rivals all over the back of him.
Yeah, this is really going to be a bit of a stressful battle, I think, with 21 minutes to go in this race. Of course, you cannot afford, as I've been touching on, you cannot afford mistakes at this kind of time. You cannot really find yourself going around in a battle for the lead. Yeah, you may be losing yourself 5 points, but you don't want to then lose anything up to well over 50 points, depending on how bad you can crash. And you can crash pretty badly around here, Joe, for not really missing the corner by a great deal. So definitely going to be careful. But there's no doubt about it. Edward Adcock is arriving on the scene, and Robin Earl Brown's going to have to face the facts soon.
Yeah, fingers crossed we don't see Robin have the similar incident that he had on Monday, remember, where he turned in at turn 8, or was it turn 8, I think, and he kind of had that strange bump off the inside wall which ended his race. So got to be really conscious when he heads to that corner, give himself plenty of room on that inside curve, make sure he doesn't have a repeat of that. But he's also got Adcock to contend with, and I must say he seems so much more confident on the brakes in that NSX. The gap down the straight seems to be growing and growing every time, and then every time they reach the braking zone he's right back on the gearbox of that Porsche ahead. Yeah,
and he's just going to be turning the screw now. It's not going to be particularly enjoyable to be defending in these kind of circumstances. But that is what he's going to... a few of these guys are going to have to be doing, not least Robin Noel Brown on Edward Adcock, as we see the 127 getting closer again. Not close enough to really force an overtake through this part of the lap, but he will be waiting in the long grass, sitting and trying to find a place to pounce, nearly heading to the back of the race leader momentarily there. And would you believe we're only a third of the way through the opening race? Feels like it's gone a little bit slower, but that may just be because we didn't quite get the frantic action off the start that we used to.
Yeah, there is some damage on the front right, I think, of that Suma car. It might be the livery, but I think it is a few bumps and scrapes. It's hard to tell, actually. You wouldn't expect that Noel Brown's picked up any damage off the race star. Getting a better look now, it doesn't look... No, there is some damage on the front right, so he's definitely made contact with a wall at some point, but it won't be impacting him all that much. But the worry is, as we said, that NSX looks so planted under braking that if he is close and behind down the straight, it really will be a good opportunity for him to make a move. I'm sure we won't see anything overly optimistic, but if he smells just one opportunity to go up the inside, I think Adcock will take it. So far though, Robin O'Brien doing pretty well to just cover off that inside line briefly before coming back over to the normal racing line, not to compromise himself too much. But this fight is going to rage on, unless of course Adcock gets by soon and then runs away with it.
Yeah, this could be slightly worrying. No doubt about it, could be worrying if Adcock gets through and starts to try and pull that advantage out just a little bit further lap on lap. With every lap he sat behind Robin O'Brien, chance for him to do that reduce. Of course, it doesn't really matter how far ahead he gets, as long as he gets to the lead by the end of the race. Then he'll pick up all the points and he'll be able to start from P18. Doesn't really matter if he pulls a 5 or 10 second gap, but getting the move done earlier, sooner rather than later, I should say, means that you're going to be in a position to have a little bit more of a comfortable ending to the race. 15 minutes of comfortable driving is something that I think a few of the drivers wouldn't mind.
Yeah, a little bit of strategy at play potentially there. I mean, I'm not saying he did it on purpose, but it looked like just a slight check-up, which is perfectly legal on Adcock, just to kind of disrupt his run out of the final corner, which would probably be a great idea. I was hoping to see how the straight line speed of these two cars compares. Something tells me that Porsche might just be hitting a slightly higher top speed. Tricky for Adcock to make a move in the corners if Noel Brown's just going to defend and then pull away in a straight line. Could be a real good battle between two different setups, two different strategies, two different machines, and of course two different drivers. We'll cut away from that for the time being, and we'll see what's happening a little bit further down the order. Jan Osberg is defending against the Mustang of Alex Cohen-Ratz ahead of Liam Fraser, and then we have Ryan Adwitz, who is just appearing in the picture now in that yellow Mustang in the back of shot. He's doing well still in P2 in class, and that is Burton Cat ahead of the Porsche, leading the way in the Evo class. So his pace tonight proving that it wasn't just a fluke during qualifying. He's definitely going to be there for the rest of the evening, granted that he doesn't make a mistake. A small sniff there by the Dutchman in behind the Swede, but for the time being the Mustang just has to stay put. Let's see if he can get up in behind the Porsche as we head into the braking zone. But these guys have been right on one another for the last few laps. You've got Fraser waiting in the wings just to make a move on these two if things get a little bit too close for comfort.
Yeah, I think that'll be something that they tried to avoid, but you can't really avoid it in circumstances like this. You can try your best to keep it out of each other, but if you find yourself going into or fighting over the same piece of tarmac, then it's almost inevitable that you're going to find yourselves converging on each other. It's just about how you manage with that, bad luck or basically bad luck, depending on how you want to view it. It's how you deal with it coming out of it that makes all the difference, whether you get on the throttle a bit too quickly, spin the car up, or whether you can just calmly get the car into a position that you can recover some time in. That's going to be the key, really. Ryan Blackie looking like he's going to be going for a move on one of the Evo drivers. Not too sure who that is in front, but it cannot be Tiago Dessler. There we go, Tiago Ryder. Thank you, Joe. In one of the Ferraris, of which there aren't a great deal of. I think there's, of course, more than we saw in qualifying, because a few of them didn't settle up, of course. Yeah,
and you're totally right. I have a little sweet spot for the Ferrari. I've never driven it in a league setting, but it was the first car that we picked for my first 24 hours, so I do have a little sweet spot in there. We drove that around Spa over the summertime, just last year. And it's a nice machine. Gearing's good, and pace is pretty good. Feels nice as well. But as we said, there's been a lot of sort of the Ferrari fix challenges that we've had, especially in the legacy car over the last few years. But it doesn't seem like it's as capable as what some of these other cars are. And I think it says a lot that we have nearly as many Mustangs as we do Ferraris, which is personally a shame, in my opinion. But no Corvettes though, which maybe that's for the better. That's yet to be seen. I don't think, in fact, no, there is. I think, is it Ryan Ottens who's in the Corvette up in the A split, but he may be the only one in the series running that machine at the moment. But looking good for Tiago. Doesn't want to put up too much of a fight ahead of a man who's not in class, and they're not anywhere near the top 18 either. So no good to risk contact at the moment. And looks as though Ryan's going to be getting a little bit impatient. What Thiago does have to be concerned of, though, is he has the championship leader of Andy Chell in behind him. And interestingly, Dara, 2 teammates in the fray at the moment. So we might see Mr. Blackie making way for Andy if he really puts a move on, just not to try and impede him. See if he can get set after Thiago Reisa in the final half of this race.
I think also going to be key on that top 18, and I think I'm not too sure where that crossover is at the moment, but I have a feeling that it's about where the likes of Eggert.
I think we've lost you momentarily there, Dara, but I'm just going to cut away to this because we have had a change for the lead of the race. Around the outside through the kink and then up the inside through turn 1. It's getting a little bit touchy there between the 2 championship leaders. Noel Brown looks to swing it up the inside, cannot get it done, and that is Eddie Adcock up into the lead of this race, and he's already extended that margin to a second and a half ahead of Mr. Noel Brown. We can see there the live gap as they head into the braking zone at turn 9. Might be time for Adcock to check out of this race. Bostock 2 seconds off the pace. Conrad's only 5 seconds back. He's got Osberg and Fraser to contend with, and actually he's got himself past, hasn't he, Conrad? We'll see if we can find that one. Here it is on the exit of turn 8, making their way down toward 9. The Mustang pulls to the inside immediately and sets on his way. Pretty easy job for Alex Conrad to get up, and Liam Fraser thought about it but couldn't get there before the next corner. And Dara, I think you're back with us.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that.
Right.
My screen froze and I realised, I think I've disconnected here. But I'm back now, and I'm glad. It's almost good timing with the move that we saw with Adcock getting through. But now he can try and gain up the order. I was just making a point on where the crossover is between the top 18, which I think is going to be interesting to see. Andy Chell's going to be a lot further away from that after that spin out of turn 5. Then we're going to see it again. He's going to get it all out of shape. Doesn't even look comfortable through turn 4 into turn 5. It's going well before he's even hit the apex there, and it was always going to happen. But I was interested just to see who is in P18 overall at the moment, because that could be a really important point to talk about. And it is Wesley Van Rens. Maxim Dimitrov is in that battle. So even though that's not a class battle, that is going to be crucial for both of those drivers' races in race 2.
Yeah, here it is then on track at the moment. That's the Ferrari of Van Ren ahead of the McLaren of Maxim Dimitrov, and of course Van Ren currently in the top 5 in class, which would really put him in a nice position. Bertin Kat hasn't dropped down the order. It'll be interesting to see if he lets the likes of Conrad, Osberg and Fraser through, given that Abbott's is 6.5 seconds, only 7 seconds now off the back of that pack, and the time is plummeting. Maybe Abbott has had a slight issue there coming out of the final corner. He's lost 0.6 of a second already, and Howarth will soon be on the back of him as well. But yeah, nothing that Bertin Kat will lose if he drops those 3 places. In fact, he will only gain. He will keep the points that he has in the bag at the moment, and he will start higher up the grid and crucially next to Ryan Abbott, which maybe he doesn't want to do, but he surely doesn't want to have to claw his way past 3 cars while Ryan heads up the road.
Yeah, that's really the key. It's never nice to be in a situation, particularly towards the end of a race, where you're defending rather than attacking, because it puts the pressure on you and you're driving on your mirrors rather than driving through your windscreen. And that sounds like it makes a lot of sense, but it really does apply the pressure and turn the screw on some of these drivers. Even in a train, even if you are sitting in behind a battle, maybe even just not going for it, just being able to see that target in front of you is going to give you that little bit more confidence going through, and the almost comfort through some of these corners. If you've got some empty track in front of you, but you know that that's going to come under pressure, then you look driving in your mirrors, you're going to start making little mistakes, and it's going to spitball into possibly making one big mistake, in the same way that we saw Andy Schell make a bit of a mistake. So definitely something to watch out for in the final 10 minutes, but for the time being, Abbott's in P2 in class, knows what he's doing, it seems, and he's staying firmly at where he is.
Yeah, it's interesting watching these 2 machines do battle around such a tight circuit like this. I'm sure they're both quite enjoying it, actually. I feel like if you drive the Mustang, you've got some sort of sweet spot for it, so these 2 might be appreciative of the fact that they're both sharing the same part of the racetrack, but it could soon become a little bit of a sticking point if James gets a little bit too close and Ryan doesn't fancy getting out the way. Let's see at the moment. I'm sure the characteristics of these, even with the open setups, are going to be quite similar. And the lap times are also fairly similar, although James Howarth was just a tenth or two slower on the last lap. However, at one point or another, he was half a second faster, so a bit of a spread of lap times at the moment. Justin Habermacher is the car in behind in the NSX. He'll fancy getting ahead of Howarth, so really James has to get a move on if he wants to put a car in between him and his rival to stay inside the top 7. Burton Cat is under a little bit of pressure from Coenrath, who's having a great drive at the moment. Got past Fraser, got past Osberg. Now he fancies getting past Burton Cat, and I think, I thought he was going to give the position up there. He doesn't want to risk rear contact here to lose this lead, does he?
No, I think that's really key here, because Tenkart's in a fantastic position to pick up some really good points for a championship, somewhat of a championship charge here, and yeah, letting a couple of cars through isn't necessarily a bad thing. Got a big gap back to Ryan Abbott, like Rosberg and Fraser could come through, and all of a sudden Tenkart's got a 9-second gap to manage, and he's not got to worry about losing any points at all. So this is not a bad idea at all for Tenkart. Maybe a bit early to be letting a couple of cars through, but I can see the strategy here for the Dutchman, and I have to say I'm not against the idea in principle.
No, as I said, I think that was always the best thing for him to do. Ryan Abbott's just coming through turn 6 now, so you probably won't even have the car in sight. He's got a couple of blue flags in between these two, but they are one and then the next on track, so he will be aware of that, and he'll know that he's got some traffic to attend to first. He's also got the traffic in behind that are keen to get through on him. The gap really closing up between Howarth and Habermacher in behind, but they don't want to do too much. James has got to contend with that NSX first before thinking about getting past the Mustang. That's a little bit of a wobble for one of the blue flags. I think that is the Alpha 1 Esports car. I'm not quite sure who that is actually. Is it Nicky Mehring perhaps coming across the line? Maybe class... Yeah. No, I'm not sure who that is. Nicky Mehring I'll go with, but he's just got to keep himself comfortable as things stand, and Sarkadesla is getting himself involved again. That's one of the RLH cars coming out the final corner. Could be a great move by Hussein. If he can get that done, he will be on the outside line at turn 1. Let's see what the straight line speed looks like between these two machines.
Yeah, Sarkadesla just trying to apply some pressure, maybe make the move here on the Ferrari driver. Let's see, inside line at turn 1 would be quite a bit of a send. He's going to go for it though. He's just going to send it to the inside. Is he going to get it stopped? Yes, he is. He's going to leave room. Well, he didn't even need to leave room really, because there wasn't any overlap for the Ferrari behind, and the 13 of James Paolo, it's not even Ferrari, is it? It's a McLaren. James Paolo having to sit in behind now and not go after the likes of Jan Noj, who will be up in P6. Sarkadesla can try and go after Noj now, but I think he's going to be a little bit too far off that reverse grid to make it too much worth his while.
Yeah, there was absolutely no doubt in my mind that Hussein knew as soon as he came out the final corner probably that he was going to get it on the brakes, and that's what he's done from not too far back, maybe just a car's length back. Gets it up the inside, clears him just about before they reach the exit of the corner. A slight scrape on the barrier, but more or less a clean move by the Turkish 108. That gets him up past Palo in the Evo class, and you can try to set after Dean Shisby, who's just a second up the road, only 5 minutes to go. But once Sarkadesla gets on the back of this car, we've seen him do it before, and there's nothing stopping him on the brakes if he fancies his chances. James Robinson under pressure from Matej Eggert in behind as well, and these guys just in that fray for the top 18. They do have that 6-second cushion down to Maxim Dimitrov, who's currently in P18, so don't have to worry an awful lot, but it will be pretty bad if these guys come together so late on in the race. And sadly, I'm going to have to flash this up because I know he might not thank me for it later, but Mr. Rob Mackay has already got damage on that machine. He's had another incident. What's he done here? Into the final corner. Oh, it's that Alpha 1 car, the blue flag, who just checked up. Thankfully, nothing too bad for those guys. But yeah, a little bit of a spin, which we actually saw live just at the exit of the final lap. Yeah, not great for that Porsche, who I think has reset back to the pit lane.
Yeah, not the best moments then to reset back to the pit lane with only 4 minutes left on the clock. Not what you'd want to be seeing, but We'll be seeing a few of those drivers again, I'm sure, as we get going for race number 2 in just about 10 minutes time, give or take. Edward Adcock, though, he's going to be feeling like he's cruising towards the end of this race. 3.5 seconds now in the lead. Does feel like he's heading to all 50 points for this race. He will have to start P18 though, and that's going to be a challenge. But for him, I think that's more of a we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. The problem for him is he's gonna come to that bridge in about 5 minutes time or so at this rate.
Yeah, he's done very well. As we saw, I think as soon as he got past Robin Noel Brown, the pace was very, very quick. And sadly, Robin didn't capitalise. His teammate was doing what he could, Mr. Bostock, at the start of the race, who, notably, is also still doing very well to stay inside the top 3. Can you believe it? That'll be his first podium of the season if he can hang on to that. So it will be a great night for the boss man if he can convert those points. He's got Alex Conrad in behind as Eddie gets past another one of the blue flags. And yeah, so far so good for the championship rival. Remember, only 8 points the difference coming into tonight, so that will then be cut to only 3 points heading into the final race if it stays as it is now. And again, he could, if it finishes 1-2 in this order at the end of tonight's proceedings, then we'll have ourselves a new championship leader.
Yeah, we always have to see drivers get themselves to the top of the tree. It's Ryan Blackie. Nearly gets into the tyre barriers there. I really thought that we were going to find him careering his way into the tyres, but he just about keeps himself out of them. He's under pressure though from, is that Danny Mulder? I don't even believe it is. It's one of the drivers. It's a blue flag, probably one. Of Martin Koch there, who is right towards the back of the order. Simon Wareham is a long way behind him as that's an aggressive move. It's saying it's late. Oh, and there's a spin. It's all going off at the final corner, Joe.
Yeah, I didn't actually see that happening at the time. Let's just take a look. It was I think it was just a dunch off the outside wall. Oh, well, that outside wall. I didn't expect it to be that one. Comes back across onto the racing line. Is he a little bit sketchy? Yes, he is. Oh, that was weird. It didn't really look like he made contact with the wall there. That's right on board on... Oh, yeah, masses of understeer there through the left-hander, which is fine. Recovers it nicely. Then it just looks like he keeps the steering lock on way too long. And, yeah, upsets his car and, sadly, gets a little helping around for good measure. Nice little power slide, though, to get it facing the right way. Doesn't cause anybody any bother, which is some great skill to see there by Thiago Reiter.
Yeah, Thiago Reiter will continue on. The Brazilian trying to get himself into the top 8 in the Evo class. We'll see if he can do it in the final couple of laps, but he's got to be careful because of Paul just behind him. There's a spin behind. And is that... Who is that? It's Henry Coulon. Oh, I wondered if it was Bert ten Kart for a second there. Of course, same liveries for teammates. But, no, it is going to be Henry Coulon, who's had a difficult night so far. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, I think I would agree with that. Thankfully, not his teammate, because Bert ten Kart still leads the way. And so far, he's played this strategy to an absolute T. Oh, and there's been a big crash between Danny Mulder, Ryan Blackie and Martin Koch. So... we'll cut back to that in a moment as we enter the final minute here in the opening round. And yeah, as we said, Bert ten Kart has played the strategy almost to a T. The cards that he was dealt after qualifying, I don't think he could really ask for much more. Fingers crossed that he converts this position. Not long to go yet. James Howarth has got past Ryan Abbott a little bit earlier on. Here it is. Let's see how he eventually got that move done as he head through the left-hander at turn 6. I think he's going to stick it up the inside at turn 8. Yes, it is. Nice and easy done. Says thank you very much. Gets his foot to the floor. Heads his way down toward 9. That's a good move by Howard. Doesn't mean anything for him. It actually means that he's going to start one position lower in the feature race. But it's nice to overtake a car nonetheless. And it was a good one at that.
Yeah, I think... not just him, but a few drivers will be happy with some moves that they've made so far tonight, and he'll be happy to be moving up the order. But final lap is now upon us in the opening race. Almost crept on us in the final, 10-15 minutes or so. But Adcock has crept his way in front of the rest of the field, and he hasn't looked back. I think Robin L. Brown's even just tapped the wall in the background there. Ed Adcock's not going to mind, though. He may even lap another car or two up towards the line.
Yeah, well, here he comes then. He's making his way around the final couple of corners, and he's got to get that steering lock on just one more time for now before he has to do it all again another 23 times probably by the time we reach the end of the session. but it didn't look like it was going to be his night at the end of practice. Qualifying went a little bit better, and the race has gone better even more. He crosses the line in P1 to take full points in this opening race ahead of his championship leader, Robin Noel Brown. So the gap comes down from 8 points down to 3 after that race, and the first podium of the season for Mr. James Bostock, and he'll be pleased to share that near by Alex Comrat. Those two have raced alongside each other for quite some time. Burton Cat has done well at the front of the Evo class. He converts the points that he so deserved after a great qualifying performance. Ryan Abbott's the same in that Mustang in P2. And Danny Weir has come out of nowhere to take that podium spot. I don't recall who was in that position earlier, Dara, but I don't remember seeing Danny up there for most of that race.
Neither do I. But it's fair to say, I think that position went under the radar quite a bit throughout the race. I'm just going to rewind on the stream a little while just to see if he has been there in a while. He has been there quite a long time.
Wow. Well, I apologise, Danny.
Yeah, he's gonna be maybe because he's been there the whole time we haven't noticed because he hasn't made a move for it or been overtaken in and around the area. So I think mainly just having a bit of a dull race in P3. That's why we haven't picked it up.
Well, he has gained 4 positions overall, but nothing in class. So, yeah, I've just realised, actually, we didn't run through the grid. So we'll definitely do that ahead of the feature race with that reverse 18. But, yeah, congratulations, Danny. Apologies for that, mate. You've gone under the radar again, getting another podium of your season, which is actually, would you believe, his... wait, is it round 6? Round 6? Yeah, it's his 4th podium in a row. So after failing to finish inside the top 10... getting a couple of DNFs in the first 2 race weeks, he's been on the podium ever since.
Yeah, it's been a really good run of results for him. And it's also good to get a good run of results at this kind of point in the season as you get towards half distance to really put yourself in contention to maybe go for a championship in the final few weeks. Yeah,
wow. He'll definitely fancy his chances at that. He's a little bit off the way, about 80 points behind at the moment. But hey, we're not even halfway there yet. We've still got one more race to go before we get there. So lots can happen. So we have 5 minutes ahead of us now while the drivers do a little bit of a warm-up. And so as always, we can run you through the finishing order of the first race, first with the Premier class. So we saw Mr. Edward Adcock doing what he does best, really, and challenging Robin Noel Brown toward the front of the field. And in the end, nearly 5 seconds clear. So a great race by the Vortex Sim Sports 127, who takes the top step of the podium. He will finish ahead of poleman Robin Noel Brown for Suma GP2. And it will be James Bostock who rounds off the podium just behind both of those guys. Started on the front row of the grid, converted that P3. I'm sure James will be thoroughly satisfied with that. Alex Comrat is next up. What a session he has had so far. That may well be his best result of the season as well. And I'm just trying to see if he's even on our board, which he's not. So something would tell me that Mr. Comrat hasn't got himself in the top 4 yet. So congratulations to him. Jan Osberg has done well. Not quite as good as we saw him out last season, but another top 5 is his best result of the season outside of his 2 podiums. So very good for the 199. Liam Fraser will be inside the top 6 ahead of James Howarth and Justin Habermacher, who shared most of the circuit together for the majority of that race. And they will finish ahead of Mr. Rob Mackay and Brandon Smith inside the top 10. It'll be Austin Grave in the Ferrari ahead of James Robinson, the BMW, with Mateusz Egert and Maxim Dimitrov finishing ahead of Clyde Veyer inside the top 15. Adam Baker will be in P16 ahead of Dean Sheesby. Then it will be Hussein Sareka-Desler. Not a great night for him at the moment. He won't be best pleased finishing so far down the order, but nonetheless, points secured for the Turkish 108. Ryan Blackie and Danny Mulder will be the last drivers to score points inside the top 20, although Bruno Silva and Adam Waters did finish the race. They sadly won't score any points. And if we cycle through, we have Henry Coolan, Rob Gregg and Mark Valmunken, who finished just 1 lap down inside the top 25, with Klaas Janssen, Pete Paeva, Martin Koch, Simon Wareham and Scott Kostrick, the top 30. Scott, he won't score points anyway, but he will go down as a DNF, I believe, having finished 7 laps off. And Jelmer van der Meer will finish ahead of Robin Aston, who didn't really get himself going off the line, finishing 23 laps down in a 23-lap race.
Not ideal, that really, is it? But he will be back, I'm sure. Slightly less drivers in the Evo class, but it was won by Bert ten Kart in the number 72. Try and say that name a few times and get yourself into some beatboxing. Ryan Abbots and Danny Weir, second and third. The two Brits not too far apart, but Danny Weir just about holding off Andre Muntian, the Romanian driver who finished just outside the top 3 in fourth. Wesley Van Rens and Jan Noj, fifth and sixth in the end, with James Pallow, the man from Jersey, within a minute of the leader. Thiago Reiser and Robert Savage were pretty close together, but outside of a minute of our race winner, Daniel Paul. It was running at our top 10. Andy Schell and Gareth Noonan a lap down, with Nicky Meering 5 laps down, and I don't think going to be picking up the points for that position, which is a shame. He'll be back for race 2.
Very, very good stuff. So we have only half of the lap to get through the grid, but we will at least run through the top 18 before the drivers hopefully reach the end of the first sector. A couple of drivers out on the circuit. Liam Fraser and Pete Paeva have fancied a little run out, and Liam Fraser with a 19.8, Pete Paeva with a 20.6, so a little bit of a spread at the moment for the Mercedes and the McLaren driver. Here's Robin Noel Brown making his way down Pine Ave onto Shoreline Drive at the moment. He fancies just getting up to speed a little bit more, see if he can put a challenge on to Eddie Adcock as they come across the line to start the race. He really has to try and get ahead as early as he can, doesn't he, Dara? Otherwise, it might be a little runaway for Adcock once again.
Yeah, definitely going to be tricky in the early stages. I think if we can keep it clean for the opening couple of laps, it's going to be difficult for some of the drivers to be able to run their way back through the order, even if they're starting in the mid-pack, really. But it can definitely happen. We've seen it happen before. It's slightly more difficult to overtake 17 cars rather than 9 or 10 that we can see on a Monday night.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it, and that's the different dynamic. As I've said a couple of times before this season, we've never gone so far in terms of a reverse grid. We started with 10, we moved to 12, I think we went to 15, now we're up to 18, and so far I think it's proving to be the right decision, as we've said before. So we have a chance now to run through the grid, and Dara, I'll let you do this one if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
There we go.
Well, there it is. Maxim Dimitrov then will get us from the front of the field. The Bulgarians ahead of the German of Matthias Eggert, and they will make up the front row of the grid. James Robinson and Austin Graf third and fourth, and Andre Muntian making it 5 nationalities in the top 5 to get us going for race number 2. Danny Weir is 6th, but second in class. We'll see how they can battle it out, with Bernard Smith and Rob Mackay inside the top 8. Justin Habermacher and Ryan Abbott's 9th and 10th, as they will look to try and gain up the order. And James Hayworth and Evo winner in race 1, Bert ten Kart, will start 11th and 12th. Liam Fraser, Jan Osberg, Alex Koenrath, James Bostock, Noel Brown and Adcock are the top 6 from race 1 in reverse, with of course Adcock winning race 1, now down in P18. Wesley Van Rens just missing out on that reverse grid, starts 19th, and he will be joined in 20th by, that was Clyde Veyer. Then it's Adam Baker and Jan Noj. Dean Cleesby and Hussein Sarakadesla, Palo and Black into the top 26, with Mulder, Reiser, Savage and Poole in our top 30. We've got Bruno Silva and Adam Waters on row 16, with Andy Schell and Gareth Newton. Of course, Schell was coming into this race season, the championship. They're on row 17. Coolan and Gregg, row 18. Van Mulken, Janssen, Piver and Martin Koch round out the top 40. We've got Simon Wareham, Nicky Meering, Scott Kostrick, Jelmer van der Meer and Robin Aston drove 45 drivers to make race 2.
Yeah, very good rundown. I thought I might have done you prematurely there, but you proved me wrong, and you absolutely had the right man in mind. So then, we're going to watch up as these guys hit single file once again, and hopefully we do have a repeat of the success of the opening rounds. The guys at the back do just need a little bit more time to form up. There was a little bit of contact somewhere in the field, but that's to be expected as these guys form up, and I think it looks like it's going pretty well. Maxim Dimitrov close in behind the pace car as he comes around the final corner. It would be wise just to bunch up a little bit before the green flag, although it doesn't look like we're going to get that much of a bunch. Only the first 10 cars have made it through, and if you'd like, Dara, you can lead us into the first couple of corners.
Yeah, looking forward to this one then, as Dimitrov will get us going for the green flag running here for race number 2. Getting a little bit more busy in behind them than we saw in the opening race. Austin Graff, Rob Mackay in the battle as there's an inside line here. Not by Austin Graff, he's got a car either side of him. That, I think it was Matthias Eckert, maybe even Danny Weir who's going around the outside to try and make a move there. Clyde Veyer in the Maltese driver in the 104 car, trying to make a couple of moves down into turn 1. Nothing happening for him this time around, but it's nice and calm towards the back of the field, it seems. The front of the field, though, it's pretty tightly packed in the front 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's all looking so good so far. Nothing to report on the timing tower, which is excellent to see. A couple of guys getting pretty dicey in the first couple of sectors here. Burton Cat having to do what he can to avoid Liam Fraser. He's dropped down 3 places in class, not off the start actually, this would be from last time out. Maxim Dimitrov and James Robinson very close at the front of the order, but at the moment though the gap's looking pretty good for a lot of these drivers. Matthias Eggert has a second clear of Danny Weir already, who leads the way in the Evo class, and downfield Mickey Mehring dropping a couple of places behind Scott Kostrick. Matthias Eggert, Jan Osberg has had a crash with Alex Cohnrath. Who's that going backwards coming out of the pit lane? I'm not entirely sure. That might be Matthias Eggert himself, actually. Yes, it is.
Yeah, and Eggert, it's not looking good, is it? For the number 105 driver, just trying to get back to the circuit. That'll do, actually, from the Acura. I mean, given the circumstances. Oh, okay. I was going to say, given the circumstances, that wasn't that bad. And then I've been towed back to pit lane. But that was just a bit of an internet connection issue. A few Evo drivers are coming past him as he runs his way across to start his lap number 2 here. Getting ahead of myself for a second, but Eggert will drop to 21st position. We'll gain back up because that's Bruno Silva going.
Yeah, but if 3 wide almost going at turn 1 doesn't really work, and he's unsighted to the cars coming around the corner. Needs to be very careful. I want to try and cut back to what we saw a little bit earlier on. I hope I'm going to pick the right car. I'm going to give it a moment just so I can try and figure out who it was, but I want to see what that driver saw as a magical car just reappeared out of the pit exit, which is not something that I've ever seen happen before. But for the time being though, Maxim Dimitrov leads at the front of the field, but he's under massive pressure from the BMW driver of Robinson in behind.
Yeah, Adcock not really able to make too many moves off the start, still down in P13. Noel Brown in 11th as well, so a lot of work for those guys to do. This could really be a battle between the likes of Dimitrov, Graff, Robinson, Mackay for a race win here, which would be great to see. 20.385 is the lap time from James Robinson. You'd expect those to come down as the race progresses, with fuel loads getting slightly lighter and the tyres not getting worse to match. Bostock with a 19.7. That's miles faster than anybody else on the last lap. We'll see what he can do with this newfound pace.
So I think this is going to be the one. Let's see if it is right as the McLaren comes around the final corner. Is he going to be met with a car coming out the pit lane? Oh, it's not the right one. Oh well, I tried my effort and I picked the wrong car, so we'll leave that for now. But yeah, you're right. He's doing pretty well at the moment, is Bostock. He hasn't lost any positions. He's gained a couple off the start, actually inside the top 10 as things stand. And as we saw in qualifying, he's definitely got the pace to be up there. Liam Fraser getting pretty close in behind Burton Cat, who's also right in behind Ryan Abbott. So it's the first piece of class battling that Burt is going to have to deal with tonight, and he fancies his chances, I'm sure, of that damage. Actually, we can see on the front of that Mustang. Obviously Burton Cat won't be aware of that at the moment, sitting in behind, but I'm sure down the straight he might gain a little bit here. Let's ride on board with the only Audi in the field and see how that straight line speed compares to the cars around him.
Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting conundrum with the likes of Tenkart, with being the only driver in that Audi car. It's difficult to really compare his pace to anybody else on the circuit because there isn't anybody to compare him to in this race. So we'll see what Tenkart can do. Of course, great pace, I should say, in the opening race. Let's see if he can carry that over into race number 2. Dean Sheesby's going fastest in the Premier class in P16. That's impressive, Joe. Not something I've seen for quite a long time.
Yeah, I'm interested there what is the cause of that one. He's doing okay. He's got a little bit of an opportunity here to get past. I must say, what a lovely livery that is of Adam Baker. Mostly chrome with a touch of white on there, which is not a style that I've seen before, but as he comes through this left-hander, oh, a lovely 720S on the side there as well. Lovely livery, which is new into this week. So Good job, Adam. I like that one. And yeah, Dean Sheesby will fancy his chances. He'll say, scrap the livery. I want to get ahead of it so I can see it in the mirrors instead of in the visor. And that might be exactly what he's about to do here. Adam has to defend the inside line. He doesn't. Is Dean going to think about it? He's on the brakes, but doesn't commit to that inside line. That opportunity is pretty frantic in the midfield at the moment. And Robinson, well, look at this pack heading across the line. That's Danny Weir in P3 in that red Porsche. He wants to stay clear of this battle, but he could really look to capitalise. If Robinson tries to sneak it up the inside of the McLaren, Danny Weir could just slip on through and lead the whole race.
Yeah, I don't think he'd mind that, would he? At the moment, P3 overall. Danny Weir would not mind getting himself an overall race win. He's got to be careful not to hit James Robinson, though. That could spell disaster for him. He doesn't cause too much contact, and they will stay in the order that they were across the line. Dimitrov, Robinson, Weir, Graf, Mackay, Weir, Muntean, Graf, Mackay, top 6 line of Stern, and it's great to see that there's a mix of Premier and Evo drivers in this battle. Never nice to just see every single position. I had to wear this, Joe. It's also, goodness me, Joe, I can't get my words out tonight. It's always nice to see multiple race leaders towards the front of the field. There we go, got there in the end.
I'm so pleased. And I was thinking about coming in to save you, but I thought, let's let him get his point out. And thankfully, in the end, he did exactly that. So, yeah, Danny holding his own at the moment. Got Andrea Muntian in behind him, though, so he's got to be conscious of that. Although he's at the front of the field, it's not as easy as it was for Burton Cat at the moment. Although, after that, he's got a nice cushion of 5 cars down there to that yellow Mustang coming out of the final corner. So, not the worst case for Danny at the moment, sitting pretty. And as they cross the line, it's going to be a 121.3 and a 121.4 in field order for these cars. So Danny just does have a little bit of extra pace in the tank at the moment in the early stages. Just about 8 minutes have passed in this race. So still so much time for things to change. Rob Gregg, all the way down here, is under a little bit of pressure, putting pressure, that is, on Klaas Janssen. However, this is for P22, so no points on offer for these places. They need to get past Adam Waters and Matthias Eggert if they're going to fancy scoring a single point in this feature race, but they all need to get up somehow. They've all got to make the battles. Doesn't matter where you are on the grid. If you can get it done, you've got to get it done. The battle at the front, though, continues on, and surely, Dara, we're going to see a change of position at the moment. James can't sit there for too long. Pace last lap only half a tenth quicker, only half a 100th quicker, should I say.
Yeah, not much to split them at this stage of the race. We still are very much in the early stages of the second 30-minute race. Only 8 minutes have elapsed. So a long time for the likes of Dimitrov to defend, for Adcock to attack. As we see Adam Baker now filing it out with Dean Sheesby around turn number 10. Other place we see too many moves occur, but the inside line will favour, I believe, was that even Sarkis? No, it was Sheesby. Sarkis got through because of how wide Baker went. And they'll make their way across the start-finish line once again with Adam Baker slipping down the order a touch, and this is how it all started. Oh, no, it's not. It's Robin O'Brien having some issues, it seems, but Adcock could be coming through.
Yeah, I think it was what caused that check-up, though. Yeah, we can see he's lost control of the car, and then maybe it's the rejoin that wasn't. No, the rejoin seems okay, but yeah, it has formed just a little bit of a check-up at the chicane. No, it hasn't really, actually. That's just Sheesby going up the inside, but it has just made a little bit of a bundle. Thiago Reiser, his race is over. He's reset back to the pit lane. It looks as though it could be the same for Simon Wareham at the moment as well. James Bostock in a little bit of a pack. Alex Conrad has been all over him for this entire session so far. You'll be thinking, God, Alex, can't you just give me a break at the moment, though? And it looks as though he's going to get himself past Jan Osberg, and he's getting a bit of a bump draft from the Mustang at the moment. Bostock up on Osberg, and yeah, that's 2 Porsches changing position at the moment up into P9 in the Premier Class for the 166 of James Bostock, and that's a scrape for Ryan Abbott on the exit of the final corner. Still very close to Burton Cat, though, so we've got battles for both race leads, which is great to see, between Dimitrov, Robinson, and then Burton Cat and Abbott fighting for that podium, with Muntian and Weir still going at it right toward the front.
Yeah, Muntian and Weir, it's great to see them battling, and Danny Weir looking to keep himself lightning fast, you could say, at the front of the field. Inside line just ahead for Dean Sheesby. Oh, as Noel Brown's gone around again at turn 1. He'll tumble down the order, and Sarah Kadesflep will gain yet another spot, along with the likes of Vea. She's been Adcock.
Yeah, I'm riding on with Husk because those two swap positions. She should be up the inside of Vea into turn 1. Sarah Kadesla might be fancying his chances here if these two continue to squabble over the next few braking zones. He's really closed down that margin. He got a little bit too close for comfort there, actually, on the Ferrari ahead. That's upset his entry, and he had a little bit of a wobble there on the exit. Got to be really cautious here, Hussein. Oh, God, that's close to that tyre wall, and that's really not done his lap any favours. It was looking good in the first sector. Sadly, though, he's dropped off the back now. Alex Kornratz has also got past Jan Osberg, but up the inside again goes that Porsche. It's going to be the long way around for the Mustang on those marbles. Little grip over there, of course, and it looks like he's managed to keep that one in check. Gets that move done. Brandon Smith, Noah Brown's had another incident, so dropping down the order even more for Mr. Noah Brown, and that is one McLaren getting past another on the exit of the final corner. Mulder ahead of Palo, out of class, and Mulder fancies getting by again. These two are going to continue this exchange all the way down through turn 1.
Yeah, let's see how this one develops as we run our way into the braking zone. Palo to the inside line, Palo through and ahead, and not going to be losing any kind of time this time around, and we'll see if he can stay there as he runs his way through this middle sector of the lap now. The McLaren, the only McLaren in the Evo class, going along nicely. Not quite as nicely, of course, as he did at Road America not too long ago, but some decent points will be incoming from the man from the Channel Islands, and we'll wait to see how many it can be, because he could try and catch up to the likes of Wesley Van Rens. Maybe Ryan Abbott's a little bit too far up the road, but still time, and still definitely a chance for some of the drivers in front of him to make a couple of little mistakes.
Yeah, quick word on this man. Obviously, the championship protagonist, should we say. Sadly, Robin Noel Brown's race has come to an end. So, not the best for the championship leader. However, we're seeing Adcock not really capitalising in the same way that he did earlier. And so, obviously, points for P12, still better than nothing. But it's, yeah, be really thinking, why can't I capitalise a little bit more? Oh, and that's one of the race leaders. James Robinson's round and in the barrier at turn 1. Let's see, did he go for a move here? Or has he just dropped it under braking? We can see Dimitrov quite a way up the road ahead. Looks as though he's just going to do it under his own accord. He's very late on the brakes. Has a little wobble as the rears lock up, and he smacks the barrier for good measure. That really helps Dimitrov now, because he's got Rob Mackay in P2 at the moment, but he's pretty far behind. We can see here's Dimitrov, Rob Mackay just in the back of the picture at the moment. So this is great news as things stand for the 2 or even 3 drivers in the podium of the Premier class. I think it's kind of unfamiliar territory for the majority of those 3.
Which can always make it fun to watch, can't it? If some of the drivers aren't necessarily experienced in the positions that they find themselves in a race, it creates a bit of an unknown for all of them, and they don't necessarily know how to manage it. For the time being, though, Dimitrov managing things absolutely beautifully at the front of the field as it stands, but he's got those 2 Evo drivers on his tail. This really could be the best chance for an Evo driver to win the race all season long. You'd be hard-pressed to say that Danny Weir's not going to give it a good old go. The Romanian number 7 of Andre is going to be also making sure that he keeps himself involved in this battle, because there's definitely a chance if the likes of Danny Weir go for it, then he might be able to slip his way through both of the drivers and find himself in the lead.
Yeah, just done a little bit of a check there on the championship order as Eddie Adcock gets himself up into P11. That'll be enough to score him 15 points in this race, and of course the -3 that he's on as it stands would see him only 12 points ahead in going into next week. So not the worst thing for Robin Noel Brown, but again, I'm sure Adcock will be thinking, I'd really like to capitalise while my rival is completely out of the picture. But as things stand, of course, we will see those 2 positions swapping order. So let's keep our eyes on Adcock, who's currently only 3/10 behind Osberg, who's half a second behind Kornratz. So still top 10 definitely on the cards, if not more, for Eddie Adcock though. And yes, as we say, these 2 doing battle. Danny Weir will fancy his chances as he's slowly closing up on Maxime Dimitrov. He was a 10th quicker than the 173 on the last lap, but Muntian was 1/10 quicker than Weir on the last lap. So these 3 are really getting closer and closer as the laps tick over, and as we just cross into the halfway point of the race, it's all still to play for at the front of the field.
And this is what we want to see. 3 drivers getting ever closer for a race win around a circuit which is going to be, stick out as a sore thumb, I think, all the way through to the end of the season with how tricky it can be. Some drivers, I think, will be hoping to use this as a drop round. It'll be a case of whether they can or not. That'll depend on how the performances throughout the rest of the season go for them. But for the time being, some drivers who are right towards the fronts of championships, the likes of Robin Earl Brown, are not going to be enjoying tonight. Noel Brown down in 36th place. It's been an absolute nightmare evening for the 1-2-1 so far, and he won't be enjoying his time. But his loss has been the gain for even the likes of Justin Habermacher. Started this race P10, worked his way up into the top 5, and is definitely with an outside shot of at least a podium here with the pace that he's currently showing. So really exciting time. Still quite a ways to go in this race, 14 minutes and quite a lot of laps left to run.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the last lap times there, because it seems as though, as we said, these 3 from 3rd to 1st have the quicker lap time. So best part of 3/10 was taken out from Muntian to Dimitrov. Danny Weir took out another 2/10. So let's see as they cross over the line. It's a 20.4 for the leader, 20.5 for Weir, 20.4 again. So lap times levelling off on that particular lap, but it seems as though out of the front 3, Muntian has the best chance, but he's gone deep. He's overdone it on the brakes, and as I said there, he's completely taken the words away from me, make them meaningless now. Rob Mackay on the back of him. Danny Weir will be so pleased about that, because he will also have been aware about that improved pace in the hands of the NSX driver. Now Weir can just take a little bit of a breath at the moment and look ahead again at Maxim Dimitrov as he sets off to try and win the race. As we said, I don't think Danny will be one just to sit there and not at least give it a go, but he'll be conscious and aware enough not to be a little bit optimistic, where he could end up costing himself in class. Rob Mackay, though, really on for his best result of the season. He doesn't really need to do too much, but I'm sure he would fancy getting a car in between him and Justin Habermacher, the NSX, in behind.
Still, I think definitely chances for a few of these guys to still get involved, as Mackay is looking to try and get himself onto the podium, and I'm sure he'd treat himself to a Hawkston if he was able to. I don't even know if he has access to any Hawkston, but I mean, you'd hope so, wouldn't you, Joe, if it's got it on his car. That's something we may have to ask him if he manages to get to the front of the field by the end of this race. But good lap times coming in from Rob Mackay. It's 1.8 seconds quicker than Andre just in front, even quicker than both of the leading 2 as well, and this could be a good chance for Mackay to close in on what could be a potential podium at least in this race. Habermacher is also arriving on the scene. We've got to be wary of him, but good line seemingly from Mackay, and Muntian looking a little bit nervous and maybe just a little bit vulnerable at this stage of the race.
Yeah, been a bit of a bunch up, I think, again, heading through the final corner. 5 drivers involved in this one, with the lead McLaren, a little bit of a check-up. Noel Brown's round again. Not the night for him, and they all come to a stop. And then that Porsche just helps it round the Ferrari. Oh, God, look at that. They're all stuck in that car park down there. I wonder who was able to get out of the way. Let's watch it just one more time as Andy Chell makes his way through turns 10 and then 11. He's going to be met on sight with a little bit of contact. The Ferrari, I think that's the RLH, is that Palo who makes his way around. And then he's just found a gap and a couple of extra drivers picking up some slots there as the car park just about gets going again. But yes, I do believe, Dara, Rob Mackay does have a little bit of a supply of Hawks. And I know some of the DXT drivers, I think, bought him some, or I know they bought each other some at some point, so I'm sure once that started flowing, it didn't really stop. And of course, the story, if you remember, that I mentioned around Zolder involving Jeremy Clarkson himself, I'm sure the DXT drivers have a little bit of a sweet spot for him. Obviously, having made a livery in his honour, I'm sure Rob will have Hawksons probably within proximity of reaching distance in that mini fridge down by Mackay's sim. It's a proper man cave that Mr. Mackay drives in, and it would be incomplete, let's be honest, without a mini fridge full of beer. Let's have it right.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the Clarkson story. I got told recently that I look like James May, which completely isn't true, but that's now 2 of the 3. I mean, I look more like Hammond. I'm the same size as him, but we just need to find a Hammond, and we could have a ESR version of the Top Gear trio.
Well, I can tell you, Dara, I mean, I've only ever seen one photo of you and James May. Nobody came to mind, but James May was a million miles away, so Yeah, I wouldn't
I
say
know.
whoever said that doesn't have the best comparison, I don't think.
No, I know. I mean, I take it because I think he's probably my favourite of the three, but that's a separate conversation. But yes, looking forward to seeing how the final 10 minutes go. Do you reckon if Rob wins, we could try and get some kind of cameo from Jeremy Clarkson?
That would be lovely, wouldn't it? I mean, we
that'd be
can
fun. Yeah.
we can definitely pay him to do that on that Cameo app, but I don't think he'll just turn up for free. I'm sure he's got quite an expensive, quite an expensive attendance fee.
We showed him some screenshots of the car on the circuit and crossing the checkered flag, though. That could do it.
That could do it. Well, it's certainly worth a try. Maybe we can see if we can get enough of the drivers to give it a retweet or whatever they call it these days. Hey, maybe that can happen. Let's see. He's got to get there first, though. It's looking good at the moment. Still inside the top 3 and in P2 in the class at the moment. Gaps closing up. Danny Weir has just dropped off the pace ever so slightly. Was best part of half a second slower on that last lap. But look at this, though. Danny could have a little bit of a shot at a run here on the McLaren. Not going to be good enough entering turn 9. But with only 9 minutes to go here, Danny is in prime position to get that toe down one of these straights. See if he can put a move in. Maxim Dimitrov he might be overly defensive, thinking, come on, Evo driver, let me cross the line first. But hey, the shoe is on the other foot, and Danny will say, well, you know, if I'm quicker, doesn't make a difference. We're still going to bring home maximum points. Who's going to cross the line first, though? We'll have to wait and see. And look at that. Danny trading lap for lap. He lost half a second last lap. He's gained half a second in this lap. This is definitely going to go all the way to the end, I'm sure of that.
Yeah, no way that this is... Well, there's definitely a way that this doesn't end on the final lap, and that's by Danny spinning or something like that, or Rob getting caught up. I mean, Rob Mackay versus Danny Weir. If you told me that about an hour ago, that would be 2 of the 3 cars involved in the battle for the win. I wouldn't have believed you. I would have been slightly concerned for your well-being, Joe, quite frankly, but that's the situation we find ourselves in. As I think there's a bit of a rear end missing there for Wesley Van Rijn. That wouldn't come off the factory line like that.
No, I think there's a little bit more of something missing. I think it's... I don't even know what you would call that little pointy bit. I feel like that shouldn't be there either. Like his boot's open. Yeah, maybe the boot. He left that open when he left the high street earlier on, and he's caught himself on this whatever it's called, Sunset Drive or whatever it is, Pine Avenue. And it's not looking great at the moment for Mr. Van Rijn, but he's not doing so bad. He seems to be still, well, I say getting the car turned in, then he hits the barrier, of course, but could be worse. James Pello, though, looks as though he's going to get a move done. This will be for the top 5 in class. I don't think Van Rijn is going to defend that an awful lot. Makes it a little bit harder than it needs to there, Pello, but he gets a move done nonetheless. And I was going to say, Dara, just on that trio that we all know so well, there was a moment when I was very close. We did a trial series of some super formulas earlier toward the end of last year, and we had a driver called Clarkson, we had a driver called Hammond, and I thought perhaps we can get Ed May in the booth to complete the hat-trick. Sadly it never happened though, but that's about as close as the ESRs ever get to mimicking those 3.
Yeah, we're going to have to get something going. That could be an aim for maybe the summer. Who knows? Anyway, getting ahead of ourselves. Danny Weir is having to fight his way with Justin Habermacher. The driver who I said may come through the order is now up to P3. He's got, 6 minutes, 10 seconds left to go to try and find a move as he runs down East Seaside Way towards turn number 9. But he is now right in contention, and this is how it's happened. Mackay maybe going for a move, and it's going to open the door for the Swiss driver. Whoa!
Yeah, it was a slight wobble on the exit for Danny, sadly. Let's take a look if we can... Again, from the onboard of Rob, you can see the Porsche, the slightest little slower exit. Mackay capitalises on that one, and then, as does the NSX driver in behind. So, Danny's opportunity to win the race overall is over, but at least that gives him a chance to focus on Andrea Muntien in behind and convert that position. At the moment, sorry, I've realised we've been in overall for quite some time there. At the moment, this battle for the lead between Dimitrov, Mackay and Habermacher, less than 2 seconds separating all 3 of those drivers, could be one of the closest finishes we've seen as we enter what is going to be the final 5 minutes of racing here tonight. We can't really take our eyes off that. Bertin Kat is in quite a comfortable window to get on the podium once again. Has to be conscious of Alex Conradt in behind, but then it's 3 seconds back to Ryan Abbott. But these top 5 at the moment, as we'll cut to now, you can see them. That is race order. Dimitrov, Mackay, Habermacher, Weir and Muntian, all on the same section of the racetrack, all fighting for this lead, and we've got 2 winners inside the top 4 as things stand.
Yeah, definitely going to be an exciting little battle as they make their way through what normally is a car park. Shock horror, there's a car park in the United States of America. Fun fact for you, Joe. There are 7 car parking spots approximately for every single car in the United States. Which is probably why we're going over a couple of car parks. In this race, down we go, East Shoreline Drive before turning into Aquarium Way. You'll be surprised where that goes past. If we get towards the fountain, in we go, through the palm trees. Very nice down here, very Californian as you make your way around the fountain. But you'd be hard-pressed to make a couple of moves there. And Rob Mackay is still going to have to wait and find another place to make this one stick. But you'd have to say, I think when we cross the line, we'll have 3 more to go. Yes, 3 more to go after this one, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you're right. Rob Mackay is going to be really keen. I mean, he hasn't won a race in such a long time, especially not crossing the line in the front of the field. Dimitrov has had the pressure piled on him all night, well, all race long, should I say, over the last 26 minutes or so. And he's got another one. It's 2 McLarens doing battle. Justin Habermacher is sitting down there in the wings, waiting to pick up an opportunity, and to be honest, that's sometimes my favoured position to be. If I see the 2 race leaders going at it, just drop back a touch, don't get involved and wait for it to all come to a head, get a good exit and try and capitalise. Let's see as they swing their way through the right-hander of 11 again. Looks like a pretty similar exit for both of these drivers. Habermacher is just, as I said, sitting pretty at the moment, not gaining but not losing out on time either. It's a 20.6, 0.5 and 0.4, so again the top 3 in reverse order are the ones setting the quicker times at the moment. Not by much, but 2 tenths is enough, especially toward the end of the race, and that's as close as Rob Mackay is going to get without making a move, I think, nearly making contact with the McLaren ahead. But as it stands, these 3, it's going to be gung-ho for the next 2.5 minutes, Dara. We're in for a bit of a treat here, I think.
Yeah, Mackay looking for a move anywhere. I have to say, as they make their way through this left-hander, did you actually know what this road was called between turns, these 2 corners?
It's West Shoreline Drive, right?
Well, no, this one's Pine Avenue, but you said that before. I didn't know if that was just a pure guess, or you actually knew that.
Oh, no, I did know that. I did know that.
Oh, okay. You said it nearly as a pure guess. I just seen it on the map and I thought, oh my word.
I did guess Sunset Drive. Where is
time.
Sunset Drive? That's a pretty famous thing somewhere.
It's Shoreline Drive here, but I can't remember where Sunset Drive is. I'll have a look for that.
Sunset, it's not a thing apparently.
No, well, it's got to be a thing somewhere.
Sunset Drive, West Yorkshire, apparently.
Lovely.
That's the first thing. Sunset Drive, Southwest 7th Street in Miami, Florida. I don't think it's as popular as what I make it out to be. That was the one I guessed, but I knew Pine Avenue from this circuit. Liam Fraser potentially thinking about it on Danny Weir, who's still doing so well to hang on to that P1. I think it probably bodes Danny well that he's not fighting for the race lead, because that might be a little bit too much. You know, the palms would be getting real sweaty at that point. But now Danny can just sit pretty, knowing that if he can keep the Ferrari in behind, he's got a gap between him and Muntian, and he can just let those guys up the road do battle for the race lead. Dimitrov, Mackay and Habermacher still going at it. We're not going to cut away from this with just 1 minute to go. This may, Dara, even be the final lap. Let me just cut here, see if we can see the man with the white flag. No white flag yet, so we will go for this lap and then one more as these guys cross the line, running out of opportunities for the 2 cars in behind.
Yeah, final lap is really going to be where Rob Mackay has to get it done. He's got to send it somewhere if he's going to make the move. It's not going to come easy to him. Habermacher will make a send if he doesn't. Very defensive line from Maxime Dimitrov. That is not a good line at all. And Rob Mackay may have a bit of a run, you know. That's not the easiest gap to close as you run towards turn number 1. And maybe Dimitrov's going to have just about enough 4/10 of a second. You'd reckon he has had enough as they cut the timing, being with 1 minute 20 or so left of this race to run on the final lap. Far too far back to make any kind of send into the opening corner. Dimitrov just having too much speed on the straights. for Rob Mackay to have any kind of move in his back pocket. Is there anywhere else that he's going to be able to do it? Turn 9 maybe, but it's going to be tricky elsewhere, that's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely right. And I'm thinking it's going to be great to speak to some of these guys. I know for a fact Rob and Danny will be well up for it, so we can get those two. Well, I don't want to speak too soon, actually. There's still got a few corners left to go. That would be an absolute... I would feel terrible if I had any bearing on their finishing positions. So far, so good, though, and I don't think Rob is the kind of driver to be overly optimistic, for example, unless he gets a brilliant run now, which he might have just done. Let's see. Now he might feel a little bit optimistic because he's there and he knows if he can get it up the inside, it's going to be job done. Is he going to do it? He defends well. He's going for it. Oh my God, he's got to slow down. He's got the position. All's fair, and Dimitrov has to back out, but around the outside goes that NSX. Is he going to be able to get it slowed down? He's going to stick his nose up the inside. This is frantic because, oh no, it's all come to an absolute disaster for Maxim Dimitrov, who's checking up at the back, and it's Justin Habermacher who will take the lead of the race. Rob Mackay will be gutted about that, but Maxim Dimitrov will be even more gutted because he's all the way down the order now in P6. Can you believe it?
My word. What a way to end the race. I didn't exactly expect 3 wide into the final corner for the win of the race. That really wasn't on my bingo card. I thought it was a little bit too out there, but we got it. And Habermacher was able to come up with the win. Absolutely close enough to make a move here for Rob Mackay, and goes down the inside as he pretty much has to. Gets it slowed down. There's a little bit of contact, but leaves enough room on the outside. Habermacher, though, just is able to take advantage, take the racing line and go around the outside. Then the 3 wide moment comes in as we see the cars try and make their way through. But the cut back from Dimitrov, there's not a great deal he can do, but at the same time, I don't really know where else the car behind is meant to go in the situation with it being such a tight corner. Really difficult to pick the bones out of that.
It's exactly what we were saying earlier on with Habermacher just sitting in behind. It's exactly where you want to be in these kind of situations. As soon as he saw Rob stick it up the inside, he knew that he would be able to get a mega launch. And then sadly, James Howarth comes into the picture. Let's see if we can continue riding on board with him, see how his run came. He was behind Danny Weir going into turn 9. Has he sent it from all the way back there? Yes, he has. Danny's let him through. That's definitely been on the radio for sure to let the Mustang come by. And then all of a sudden, James Howarth is met with a spinning McLaren. Oh, is this on the last lap? Sorry about that. That's on the previous lap, so we'll just skip that for now. But yeah, what a crazy end to that race. And sadly for Maxim Dimitrov, did so well to lead, but in the end, finishes in P6. Congratulations, of course, to Habermacher, Mackay and Howarth, who gets himself back on the podium, and Danny Weir, especially after a great session for him. He's had a run of podiums. He got himself a P3 earlier on and a P1 tonight. That's his best result of the season, and that will be 5 podiums in a row for the number 55, I think he is.
Yeah, incredible display really from him. I'm sure he's going to be absolutely delighted. Habermacher, at least with how that race has gone for him. Not exactly what we would have necessarily expected, but I don't think he's going to complain one bit about that result.
No, he absolutely will not, Dara. So let's get some drivers into the booth. So we'll come back here.
You're going to run through the results, Joe?
Oh, very good idea, Dara. That would be that would be very wise, wouldn't it? Let's do that first, shall we? So we'll start with the Premier Class for this feature race. So what a chaotic end to the race that was. It was that chaotic. It's got me all jumbled up. I'm just so desperate to speak to the drivers. We forgot to cover the standings. So Justin Habermacher crosses the line. Didn't look like it was going to be his race until he slipped through the inside at turn 9, then around the outside at turn 10, and got himself up the inside once again through 11 to cross the line ahead of Rob Mackay for DXT Luna, and a double podium there for him and James Howarth. Liam Fraser will do well to score points in P4 for the Moonshiners Racing Club ahead of James Bostock. Good night for him on the podium first, and then a top 5 for the 166. Maxim Dimitrov, disaster in the end, did so well to lead pretty much all of that race, and then catastrophe struck right in the final sector, and he can only finish inside the top 6. Austin Grafe will be next, ahead of Alex Kornratz to round out the top 8, ahead of Jan Osberg and Dean Sheesby. Good result for Dean to get inside the top 10. Adam Baker and Eddie Adcock dropped a couple of places again. We saw Eddie get up inside P11, P10. In the end, it's only P12, so he will lead the championship at the moment, but it won't be by the margin that he would have been optimistic for, and that reverse top 18 clearly proving to work as we kind of expected it to. Ryan Blackie and James Robinson will finish ahead of Klaas Janssen inside the top theme, with Clyde Veyer and Martin Koch ahead of Pete Pieva and Adam Waters. Henry Coolen will round out the top 20, and it will next be Bruno Silva ahead of Matthias Eggert. We'll then cycle through to Mark Van Mulken ahead of Brandon Smith. Robin Noah Brown there did come back onto the circuit, only finished 2 laps down, but of course nobody outside the top 20 will score points. Sarika Desler crashed toward the end of the race and finished 6 laps down. And then it was Danny Mulder, Scott Kostrick, Rob Gregg and Simon Wareham, the top 30, with Jarmo van der Meer and Robin Aston. Once again for Robin Aston, maybe he didn't even start the race, but not getting through the first lap.
Moving on then to the Evo class, Danny Weir just about winning out in the end. Andre Muntian pushed him close, but not to be for the Romanian driver. Bert ten Kart was P3 ahead of Ryan Abbots and Wesley Van Rens. James Palo, Andy Schell and Nicky Meering inside the top 8, but all of them within the first lead lap. Jan Norge and Robert Savage were just the 1 lap down, but they will pick up their points by finishing inside the top 10. For Tiago Reiser, Daniel Poole and Gareth Newton, none of them seeing the checkered flag, and quite a few of them a very, very long way down the order.
Very good. Very good. So now I can get on with what I was so eager to do earlier. Can bring in a couple of these drivers that have had such an eventful evening. A lot of guys on the podium twice this evening. And so we can decide who we're going to bring in first. And if you give me a moment, we will soon be ready. I saw that Justin is waiting, so I believe it's probably a good idea to start with him.
Yeah, we will start with him. Of course, we've had... I think we had 4 different winners tonight. We had Adcock in race 1 for the pros, then 10 Kart, didn't we? And then Weir, and then, of course, Justin Habernacker. So we'll... Habernacker, I should say. So Justin, we'll bring him in now. Can you hear us, Justin?
Yes, hello.
Good evening, Justin. Well, first of all, we were watching on. Let's just talk about that feature race, sadly. Let's forget what happened earlier. That feature race, that finale. Talk us through what you were thinking, because... we alluded to the fact that, you know, you're sitting there in P3 watching the cars ahead do battle, and in the end, you were in the right place at the right time, and you took your opportunity when it came.
Yeah, I was just thinking, do not bin it. Whatever you do, don't hit the wall and let the race come to you. Watch the guys ahead, whatever they do, try to profit off it, and don't put it in the wall.
And that's exactly what you did, mate. So, talk us through how you felt in that final sequence of corners then. You saw Mackay go up the inside, you opened up the corner on the entry to 9. It looked a little bit sketchy on the outside of the marbles there before the final corner, but you managed to get it slowed down and tucked in. What was that feeling like coming across the line after such an eventful couple of corners?
I can't even describe it. I'm surprised myself. I didn't think that I would win this race or even be on the podium. I just saw, like you said, the door open, so I thought, okay, let's go inside. And then we went into the last corner and it got really close, and I kind of felt bad for it, but then my thoughts just went out of my head because I was so excited and surprised.
But I mean, for you, Justin, this is a fantastic result. I mean, going through the race, I'm just going to say, I know Joe can back me up on this. I said, with about 15 minutes to go, that you were making your way quietly through the field and doing a really good job about quietly going about your business. I mean, were you confident of getting anywhere near the front in race number 2 after starting, you know, in the mid-pack?
Not really, to be honest. I thought I'm just going to do my thing and maybe a top 5 is possible. But then suddenly things were a lot closer than I thought they would be, and some people made mistakes, I think, so I was able to profit off of that. And suddenly I was in the top 3 and then in the battle for the win somehow.
Good stuff, Justin. Well, that's very good result for you. And how do you feel about the upcoming rounds? Have you got any particular circuits that take your fancy in the final few weeks? We've got Sebring and Kota, Imola, Mugello. I think is it Bathurst that we finish with in the final round?
I'm looking forward to Mugello. I love the track with its ups and downs, and it's just a great track, and I'm really looking forward to that. Sebring could also be interesting with the weather, especially in the qualifying.
Of course, right. Well, very good stuff. And, well, congratulations. And thank you for joining us. And
Thank you.
Justin, we always give some guys an opportunity for a shout out. If there's anyone you'd like to do that to, you can do that now.
Yes, definitely. I want to give a shout out to my teammate. I had limited practice this week, and he was actually helping me like 2 hours ago with like some things, which gear and such. He was giving me some great advice, and I'm really thankful for that.
Good stuff, Justin. Well, thanks for joining us. And again, well done on that last gasp win. And yeah, fingers crossed, more to come this season.
Thank you.
Good stuff, Justin. Thanks, man.
Bye.
Great to be able to speak to Justin Habermacher after his great result this evening. We will be able to speak to Danny Weir next after his great performances this evening. Danny, welcome in. Can you hear us?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Very good, Danny. Well, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were speaking to you in the booth, and we noted actually your incremental improvements, should we say, in the championship. You've had a P3, a P2, a P2, a P3, and a P1. So it's been one hell of a run of form. Just talk us through that night first. Sadly, you went under the radar for us in the opening round, and
Yeah,
it was to my surprise that you were in the top 3. But that second race, there was a moment where you could have won the race, and then you had that slight wobble, I think coming out of turn 5 maybe. Rob took you around the outside, the car behind took you around the outside. Then from that point, I think you just thought, right, let's convert the winning class here and not get ahead of ourselves.
So yeah, so basically, aside from the race one, on qualifying even, I knew in qualifying and practicing and stuff like that I was lapping fairly quickly, but I have a tendency to lap quicker in practice than I do in quali. So I was expecting to be like in the 120s. So to get faster than my practice time was, my best time overall ever. I thought, okay, it's not too bad. Put me up into the big boy category, like P4, I think it was, maybe P3. Made the most of the start, just tried not to get into any trouble, and then just held what I could really. So yeah, Andre kept me honest in that first race, and I was literally constantly watching my relative to see how far he was and how close he was. Because I think at one point we had got a car between us, and he was 2 point something seconds, and I kind of thought, okay, maybe I've got this a little bit. One lap later, he's right up my bumper again. I was like a bit nervous, but yes, I held on for that to get that. Was it P3? P3
Yep.
the first race.
Yeah.
So really happy for the P3. So they put me in P2 for the quali, knowing that Andre was gonna be ahead of me. I thought, okay, do you know what? It's just a case of staying as high up as I can, keep the cars between us. He made I think it's a bit of an error, or a bit of a just, in the mix-up of starts, I just got past him quite early on, so I managed to hold it. But I just, in my mind, I'm just thinking, just take it lap by lap. He's very quick. He's probably going to get me at some point. And yeah, just kept ahead. And then I've just see him obviously getting overtaken by the guys like Rob and James. And a little inside thing, although I did have a little bit of a twitch out of turn 5, I did let Rob go because I thought he's obviously a DXT teammate. I can't really afford to let him not go for a battle for P1. So I let him through. Didn't want to let the car behind him through, but that kind of happens because obviously I had a bit of I was a bit narrower into the corner. And then same thing for James, really. James Howarth, another DXT member. I didn't want to stop him, so I tried to kind of let him go at a clean point, but not jeopardize my race. And yeah, just try to hold on. I'm ecstatic. I can't believe it. I nearly lost it completely because of an incident on the last corner of the last lap, because Liam thought we was in the same class. But other than that, I'll take it. I'm so happy.
Awesome to hear, man. It's awesome to hear. And yes, as you said, it was a strong qualifying. You did exactly what you needed to do throughout the entire session. In the end, you've reaped the rewards. So just a quick word, thinking ahead on Sebring next week. I mean, you don't want to heap the pressure on yourself, but you're in some run of form at the moment, and it's a track that we've raced at a couple of times, so you might be a little bit optimistic if you can try and keep this run going in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, so Sebring is a track which I'm all familiar with. We've done 12 hours around it and stuff like that. It's obviously a difficult track with the last corner being so bumpy. It's very easy to lose the rear. So again, it's another one for me. I'm just going to take it by the race and just go from there. I'm not got no expectations going into it. Just if I can finish well, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But
Good stuff, good stuff.
Difficult track.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks for joining us once again, and we'll give you an opportunity to give a shout out to your teammates, I'm sure, as always. And then, we'll try and catch up with a couple of drivers before we sign off.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, big shout out to DXD boys for Rob and James for keeping me honest in that, and a massive shout out to Andre, the one that was behind me in both races. Honestly, very very quick driver. So I'm so unlucky for him, but it was a good battle. And thanks to you guys as well, obviously.
Of course, yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you. Well, good stuff. Congratulations, and hopefully the run of form continues over the next couple of seasons. Might revitalise your championship a little bit. So we're going to bring in a couple of new drivers at the moment. But enjoy your week, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Awesome, man. Cheers.
Great to speak to Danny. We're, of course, after his good result, we'll be able to now speak to another race winner in Bert 10 Kart now, which is always positive to be able to do. I'll drag Bert in. Bert, welcome in. Can you hear us? Bert's just left. I'm not too sure whether he meant to do that. Let's try that again. Bert, welcome in. Can you hear us, Bert?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. Hello.
Hey, man. First of all, welcome into the booth. Glad for you to join us, and it'll be good, actually, to speak to the single Audi driver in the championship. But first, before I come to that, how was that night for you? We obviously saw you have a pretty dominant qualifying. You were right up there toward the front of the field, and you converted a very strong result in race 1. And you played out the strategy of letting a few of those cars through, and you had a pretty decent starting position in race 2, and you've again converted another podium. So talk us through that overall. Were you expecting that kind of result around a track like this, or did it come as a little bit of a surprise?
Well, actually, Long Beach, I really like the track. It suits me quite well, I think. So I knew I had to do it in qualify, because if you start in the middle of the field or at the back, then you're pretty much done for when something happens in front of you. So good quality is really important, and I managed to put in quite a decent lap, I think. So that was very satisfying for me, actually. And then in the race, just keep my nose clean, stay out of trouble, try to take the pace that I know that I have, and mostly stay out of trouble, to be honest, because once you start banging those walls, then it's race over, right? So yeah.
But for you, I mean, it's been a good season so far. Over 200 points coming into this race. You're going to have a big boost on top of that after this race. Ryan Abbott's scoring nothing. Andy Schell not really being too competitive compared to the likes of you this evening. This is going to shoot you right up into towards championship contention. Over the next couple of weeks, do you feel like you can really try and get into the championship lead and pull away? Is this kind of a confidence boost you can almost run the high of?
Well, to be honest, I did need the confidence boost, because after last week in Virginia, that was just gut-wrenching, to be honest. That was a really hard race for me, and I was running somewhere P4, I think, in my class, and then it was just the track sent me off to the left where I had to go to the right, so that was pretty horrible. So this confidence boost that I got this evening, that's extremely welcome, to be honest, because I think I can do pretty okay in the championship if I just keep my nose clean and try to keep those points in, right? So I really needed this one for sure. Coming for the rest of the season, we'll see what happens. I like Sebring, but I think it's going to be partially wet. So again, just be careful and try and get as much points as I can.
And Bert, talk us through the decision to drive the Audi. I'm sure you're more than aware that you're the only man in the field in that machine. Does that give you a little bit of an extra incentive to think, well, let's prove that the Audi is better than what other people seemingly think? And of course, you're right up there in the top 3. After tonight, You won't be that far away. You might have even gained points on Abbott's, and I don't think Andy had the best night. So you've definitely closed that gap, and we could see an Audi right at the front of the field, right at the front of the championship before we know it.
Yeah, well, actually, I really like the Audi. Of course, the Acuras are fast. The Porsches are always fast, and because, well, most people drive Porsche. That's for me a reason maybe not to drive it. I tried the McLaren for a bit, but yeah, I had the feeling that those turbo cars don't really work for me, and the naturally aspirated character of the Audi, that really suits me. So when you put the power down, it's very predictable. Yeah, actually, I really love this car. So yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's a very nice car.
Yeah, well, it certainly looks nice. It looks impressive. The livery is a nice one as well. So yeah, it's good to have some representation. Nice to have an additional spread of those of all the machines that we have on offer. So yeah, good to see. Well, thanks for joining us, Bird. And we always like to give the guys a chance to shout out anybody if anyone's watching, or your teammates or anything. So if you'd like to do that, you can do that now.
Obviously, my team, sim racing team, Lowlands. You know, I joined this team about 2 years ago, and they really helped me improve as a driver. And we got some really nice guys in there who are always willing to help. So if I need to shout out anybody, then it's my team. Yeah, for sure.
Good stuff, man. Well, always welcome to join us again. Fingers crossed that you continue this run of form. Obviously, only one podium so far this season, but consistency's been your key to be inside the top 3. And as we said, you'll definitely be there when we arrive at Sebring next week.
Well, thanks for having me.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
Great to speak there then to Bert Tankard. It's always good to see some new faces in the booth, isn't it, Joe?
It is, and that's why it's it's important when we have these opportunities to see new drivers finishing toward the front. It's good to speak to more of them. And apologies to the other guys on the podium. We had Ante Amunti in there, we had Howarth and Mackay waiting, but we cannot sadly go through everybody. Otherwise, we'd be here all night as much as we'd like to. You know, we have a little bit of a schedule to keep to. So we appreciate everyone who came to speak to us, and of course the guys who were in the booth. We see Mackay kissing the barrier there. We didn't see that earlier in the race, but wow, Dara, what a session that was. Probably that feature, probably the best race of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it gives us a great almost boost in terms of the action towards the second half of the season. Closing championship battles, tracks upcoming that can provide some great racing action in the face of Sebring and Kota. Really looking forward to it over the next couple of weeks. Yeah,
and I think you're right. Sebring and Kota will be a nice double header. Well, they're all double headers, I guess, but you know what I mean. A nice little close, and then we move to the next double header with Imola and Mugello, kind of similar circuits in some respects. So yeah, I think we're definitely going to gear up to a very entertaining finish, that's for sure. And as we say, that's halfway done now. We've got 5 weeks to go, 5 weeks done, and yes, some names really starting to appear regularly toward the front, but also, as we've seen tonight, it's definitely up for grabs in these 2 30-minute races, because I mean, this circuit stands out as one that was always going to be tricky for that reverse 18. Maybe it'll become slightly easier when we return to those more natural circuits, but definitely what you like to see, and a good opportunity to speak to some of those new guys. So we'll go ahead and wrap up there. As always, we'll have a quick summary of how you can get involved with us here at Evolution Sim Racing. So to do so, you can scan the QR code on screen. That will take you to our Discord server, where you can find all 750 of our members and get yourself signed up to the waiting lists on Mondays and Thursdays. We'll have an announcement due in the next couple of weeks, so watch out for that. And then within the next month or so, we'll probably start releasing information on the next Monday series, and of course Season 8 of GT3s as always. So thank you all for watching, and we'll catch you on Monday night as we cross over the halfway point in that GT4 TCR Championship. And for those of you who join us on Thursdays, we'll see you next week for round 6 at Sebring. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you all very shortly.